This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Before the summer break, the Classic Indycar Series had its first 500-mile race of the year. And what a race it was. A late race caution meant that the leaders were all bunched together in a race on strategy. It was Lucas heading to victory lane for the first time in over 2 years. Today, Lucas can defend his honour of being the last driver to win at the Gateway in the Classic IndyCar Series. However, he has to do it from the back of the grid. As we start the second half of the season, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to RaceSpotTV and the iRacing Esports Network with myself, Jack Stiles, and Randy Chenoweth, bringing you 200 laps of action here at the Gateway Motorsports Park. And Randy, this is an interesting oval. I don't want to say it was unique compared to other ovals out there.
I don't know if you wouldn't want to say that, because it's definitely true. Very, very odd 1.25 mile racetrack that we have here just outside, across the river from St. Louis, Missouri. It's very unique. Turns 3 and 4 are going to be easy flat out for these guys. Turns 1 and 2 is where all the difficulty of this racetrack lies. Much tighter than 3 and 4, and interestingly banked. You're going to want a lot of aero to get through turns 1 and 2 quickly, but you do want to load the car with aero and be slow in a straight line and have it difficult to make passes, and you're likely to have a parachute on that race car and be easily drafted on, or do you trim the car out and be slower through turns 1 and 2? It's going to be interesting to see what drivers go for, especially on what we have, which is a, as expected, typically hot race day here in the Classic IndyCar Series.
And well, as all season long, one driver's been showing us around every single racetrack throughout the season. And let's take our lap on board with Josh Baird.
Welcome to Gateway Motorsports Park near St. Louis.
Okay.
I am Josh Baird, and I will be giving you the track tour for the 1.25 mile track. Entering turn 1, we will let off the gas slightly to make the 11-degree bank corner. Throughout a stint, we will apex down by the apron, while later moving up the groove slightly to save our tires. Getting back on the gas, we will push right up to the wall, giving us the best run down the long backstretch. Going through the 9-degree bank turns 3 and 4, we will be able to go full speed through the corner, but we'll have to avoid the apron so we don't spin the car. Later in the stint, we will have to let off slightly to avoid the wall exiting turn 4. This has been a trip around the quick, true oval of Gateway Motorsports Park. I hope you enjoy the race.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Classic IndyCar Series from Gateway Motorsports Park, brought to you by RaceSpotTV, live on the iRacing Esports Network. And without the partners and the sponsors of the Classic IndyCar Series, this would not be possible. Of course, our title sponsor, once again, goes out to Logykal Innovative Engineering, providing lots of innovative solutions for all of your sim racing needs. Just give them a search and you'll be able to find out exactly what they can do. The Oval Triple Crown is brought to you by New Centric Solutions. They've sponsored the 2 races at Texas and Pocono. And then, of course, our season will be finishing out with the Indianapolis 500 on the 3rd of November. The next race on the August the 25th is going to be brought to you by Edifice Incorporated, the second race they have brought to us so far this year. The first one being at the Indy Road Course back in May. On October the 13th, we'll be heading to Laguna Seca, to the deserts of California, for our charity race for 2019. Of course, that one is brought to you by the Carroll Hatton Breast Cancer Care Centre. And of course, as always, a shout out to the Lionheart Racing Series and Jorge Anzaldo, bringing a brilliant prize to the championship winner, and that is, of course, the plaque that has been received so far by every single winner. The points are up on your screen right now, ladies and gentlemen. You'll see that Matt Cook is currently leading the way quite comfortably at the top, but the points, as we get a little bit towards the midfield, Randy, is getting a little bit more interesting because it's starting to close up.
Yeah, mid-pack and points relatively close. You see Josh Chin, he has a big gap from not only himself to Matt Cook, but from himself to Lucas Laville as well. But the likes of Yoni Kaijin and Robert Grosser, Timo Isanyemi, only 5 points apiece separate those three drivers. Then you see the gaps close again. Andrew Aiken sort of on an island, but Jan Hoffman, Hans Pitkanen, and Randy Shoemake, just a few points separates those three drivers as well.
And well, as I said at the top of the broadcast, the winner from last time out of Pocono has to serve a rear of grid penalty. That is because he has picked up 3 warnings so far in the season. The 2 other drivers with rear grid penalties today, Randy Shoemaker and Logan Simmons, they have been decided not to race.
Those aren't even similar names. How did you do that?
No, they're not. I just looked at the wrong number. It's been a long time since I've done this. But Logan Simmons and Randy Shoemaker will not be starting today's race. Sasha Lamp, though, however, I will quickly mention, he's one of the drivers, I believe, joining as a new recruit at this halfway point in the Classic IndyCar Series, just to try and get a few more people onto the grid for the second half of the championship, Randy.
Yep, good to see getting some people joined in a little bit later on in this championship. Of course, it's been a fun championship to watch, and it's been absolutely fantastic. Matt Cook pretty much has a stranglehold on it at the moment, but this is going to be a fun gateway race for 200 laps, and I think it's going to be a quick race, too, for these drivers.
Yes, if we can rattle through this pretty quickly, it's going to be about... Did you say it was going to be about an hour and a half, Randy?
I think if it goes green, I don't think it's out of the question that we wrap this up in an hour.
Yeah, it's always possible. If these drivers can keep themselves out of the wall, out of trouble, it could be possible. Qualifying has come to an end. It's time to go racing. Championship leader is going to take the pole. Matt Cook with a time of 26.479. Alongside him, Nate Michael lining up second. Mike Gerlicher having a really strong qualifying, lining up third with Jan Hoffman alongside in fourth. Mr. Spin himself, Josh Chin, is going to be lining up in fifth. Johnny Garrett in sixth. Timo Isanyemi seventh. Robert Grosser eighth. Jamie Wilson in ninth. And Andrew Adair Saunders going to be rounding out the top 10. Christian Hauser, Andre Delino, Jonathan Diggs, Andrew Aitken, Josh Baird, Marshall Stanley, Todd Novosad and Carson Brovey are going to be the other 8 cars who have set a qualifying time. Yoni Kainen is going to be lining up 19th. Randy Shoemake obviously not starting, but lining up 20th. Lucas Laville 21st. Sasha Lamp 22nd, and Logan Simmons, another one of the non-starters, not going to be taking to the grid. It's going to be, Randy's about to correct me probably, 2 pace laps at Gateway because of the length of the track.
1 pace lap.
1 pace lap. So these guys have got 2 kilometers.
Pro tip, any track under 1 mile in length is 2 pace laps.
Ah, okay, yes. Now that makes sense. So these drivers will have 2 kilometers, just 1 lap to get themselves sorted and ready to go. Another 40 seconds and the pace car will be moving. One thing that I will point out very early on is that Gateway is one of the reasons why it is unique, Randy, and it's not the only oval in the US that has this. It's one of few that does. Is that the actual curves, they aren't proper 180-degree radius. It sort of fans out. It does very much like what Darlington does as well with its turns 1, 2, 3, and 4. Yeah,
every little bit of this racetrack is slightly different from end to end, so it's not the end of the world. So it's a very unique racetrack in that respect. It's not quite as unique as Darlington. In that respect, but it is very unique in its own right as we're getting ready to roll these guys off for their pace lap, their observation lap. But for these guys, it's gonna feel mighty unique. I'll say that. It's gonna be very, very Darlington-esque for these open wheelers. Stock cars, it wouldn't be as much of a problem, but on these guys, is the sort of speeds they carry through the corners and through the radius of the corners. Turns 3 and 4 are mighty tight.
And while obviously a subject which we talk about quite a lot on the Classic IndyCar Series is the weather. And as Randy did say, unsurprisingly, it's hot. 49 degrees Celsius out on the track. 27 degrees in the air. We have an easterly wind, which means into turns 1 and 2, there's lots of grip. The wind really helping put just that little bit more downforce onto these cars. But through turns number 3 and 4, the drivers have got to be careful because it will push them up towards the outside wall on the exit of turn number 4 onto that main straight where pit road is situated. Of course, pit road, everyone going to be entering pit road on the entry to turn number 3. So be expecting to see some cars diving down to the left. We are going to see the pace car do a very similar thing in just a few moments' time. We'll be racing for 200 laps of the Gateway Motorsports Park. Pace car is in. The field is under the control of Matt Cook. We are racing for the second half of the 2019 Classic IndyCar Series. A brilliant jump by the driver of Matt Cook. Going to get himself a nice advantage into turn number 1. Mike Gerlicher coming up the inside of Nate Michael as well. Just contacted to turn 1. Between himself and Josh Chin, they've kept it going. We stay green. But for Mike Gerlicher, all of a sudden, push right to the back of the field.
Yeah, that was a bit over-aggressive, I think, by Josh. I don't think that hole was there, and I don't think the move was on. So now you got to question, is that number 93 car carrying any damage? You see his teammate lurking in the background as well. Actually, no, I take that back. That's not Jamie. That's, I believe it might be, I'm not sure who it is, but it's not the 87. But regardless, cars starting to move their way up through this field. But drama early as Matt Cook's taking advantage, and he's out to a huge 1.5-second lead here on the opening couple laps.
So already Matt Cook making himself a nice advantage up at the front of the field, giving himself a little bit of leeway to the guys behind. The top 3, in fact, Matt Cook, Nate Michael and Jan Hoffman, they've all sort of split off a bit. The big pack start from 4th back. Johnny Garrett having a good qualifying in 6th. The incidents in turn number 1 has pushed him up to 4th position. It seems like everyone on the inside got cycled back just a little bit there, Randy. Everyone on the outside was able to make up a few positions. Jamie Wilson up to 6th from 9th, and Tristan Hauser up to 7th from 11th.
Yeah, so that stack up down in turn 1, which we're going to take another look at. We're right on board with Josh here. See exactly how this sort of looked from his perspective, and you see he just goes in towards turn 1 and just clips the back of Gerlicher there. Stacked him up, and you see how many positions he lost. He started 5th, and he currently rolls out there on the racetrack in that 12th position as he currently runs. A couple cars just in front of him, but likely carrying a bit of damage at the moment. That's not going to be doing well for that race car or for the sort of downforce you expect to be carrying. And look at the way we're already starting to see people spread out here, Jet, because of the dirty air. You're not seeing very many close fights. Right now I see Johnny Garrett and Timo Isayemi. They're pretty close going through 1 and 2, but look at the way they fish for clean air as they go through those corners. You see Timo, he's not able to run in the tire tracks of Johnny Garrett in front of him through corners number 1 and 2. Through 3 and 4, you both can kind of run the bottom of the racetrack and you'd be fine. The radius of the corner isn't tight enough that you can't keep it flat out, but it's 1 and 2. If you're not making a move on someone and getting out the inside, you have to stop yourself. Go ahead.
We got a car around. It's the 36 of Todd Novosad. He's managed to keep it going and not stop, so we will stay green here at Gateway. But that is going to cycle Todd right to the back of the field. One advantage is he's going to have a little bit of clear air to start running in. But as you were saying, everyone's starting to thin out. There's a nice big mid-pack and the battle for 9th position. Andrew Aitken going down the inside of the driver, Andrew Adair Saunders. He's got a little bit of traffic ahead of him in the form of Tristan Hauser. He lost out on the last time round to his teammate, Robert Grosser. Grosser managed to getting himself up into 7th position. But for the driver of Andrew Aitken, still trying to get down the inside. He's done the move on Andrew Adair Saunders, but watch out for Josh Chin coming from behind. Currently in 11th. He's trying to make up for lost time. Lucas Laville, another driver, currently in 17th, trying to make his way through the midfield. Slow progress so far for the Frenchman. I think he's going to be starting to get anxious there, Randy.
Yeah, we're riding on board with Andrew Adair Saunders right now, looking back at that purple and white car of Joshua Chin as they head down this front straightaway and in towards 1 and 2. No move going to be on just yet for Josh. Not nearly close enough, but look at the fight just in front of Andrew between Tristan Hauser and Robert Grosser. They're going to be wheel to wheel down this back straightaway, and they're actually going to be the 56 of Hauser is going to reign supreme there. Josh Chin, though, he's up the inside of Saunders and trying to make the move on Aitken as well.
So Saunders just going to let Josh Chin have the position. He's up the inside of Andrew Aitken by the looks of things in the 27, but Andrew Adair Saunders back down to the outside. Slightly better run off the corner than Josh Chin. Almost wheel to wheel, almost contacted to turn number 1. I think Josh Chin might just have the run. Everyone's going to be running in dirty air because ahead of him, Andrew Aitken and Tristan Hauser are both going to be going side by side on the exit of turn number 2. Looks as though everyone's got single file into turn number 3. They haven't actually Chin down the inside of Adair Saunders to try again. try and get that 10th position and solidify himself back inside that top 10 as he complete 10 laps of this race. 190 to go.
You have to be careful here through turns number 1 and 2. Typically, you see that middle groove be strong for these open wheel cars with all the downforce they have. But you can seemingly run the bottom at the moment on the fresh tires. I know in the new car, in the IR18, the middle is where you want to be when you're side by side. But of course, this Dallara IR05 has a lot more aero than the modern Indy cars that we've been seeing. So maybe these guys can carry a bit more speed down there along the bottom. Probably going to easily change how you're going to approach it. Through 1 and 2 once again, you see Josh kind of lines up the middle as the two drivers of Hauser and Aiken. They're side by side in front of him, fishing for clean air, and he gets a run on that 27.
And you can see the run that Josh Chin has managed to get off the corner, around the outside of Andrew Aiken. He's gone. Andrew Adair Saunders looking to try and maybe do the same thing. Aiken going to shut the door, not going to allow the line to open for Andrew Adair Saunders, and looking forward, Josh Chin now eyeing up a move on Tristan Hauser. Well, I don't know how hard it's going to be. Hauser going down to the middle, going to get pushed up to the high side of the racetrack. And Josh Chin now looking to the inside, sitting in the slipstream, opening up the gap. Not sure what Tristan Hauser can do as they come into turn number 3. He's not going to put up a fight, and I think Josh Chin may have just about got the move done.
So he's gotten to the head of this little pack, and another driver that's starting to rein in gaps is actually the 15 of Nate Michael. The last couple laps, he has been quicker than your race leader of Matt Cook. You see, as we take a look at the lap gaps, nearly 0.3 of a second the last 3 laps is what Nate Michael has been able to reel in on that number 6 Aero X driver of Matt Cook. So maybe for the first time in a while, we're going to see a situation where Matt gets gifted a big race lead, but is not the quickest car out there on the racetrack. Another 3/4 of a tenth goes in favor of the 15.
And for the driver of Nate Michael, as someone who was very quick at Pocono before, he's in trouble at about the halfway stage. He's going to want revenge here at Gateway. He's going to want a good run in that number 15 machine. Clearly putting the pressure onto Matt Cook, and Matt Cook's got to start to be thinking about his championship. He's safe at the top for the moment, but it just needs 2 or 3 bad races in the remaining races of the 2019 Classic IndyCar Series. And all of a sudden, Randy, he's pushed off that top spot, and someone else is going to be taking home that championship.
Yeah, exactly. So it's going to be something that you have to think about here with the way this race pans out as your whole field screams down the back straightaway and in towards turns number 3 and 4 once again. Starting to see all these cars slowly start to spread themselves out. We are seeing pretty much gaps. Closest gap I think we have actually is between Ison Yemi and Jamie Wilson, 0.2 of a second. Couple maybe closer ones in the mid-pack. Back to this fight that we've been watching as they get single file. Actually, Tristan Hauser tries to get to the outside, and he nearly plays himself a little bit. Andrew Adair Saunders nearly able to get by for what is really this long train of cars on the racetrack, and easily the biggest fight we have.
We've got a train of cars running from 8th down to about 16th at the moment. And that obviously, that does include Lucas Laville slowly making his way up through the field. Josh Chin as well.
Oh, no, he's not. Lucas is slow off of 4.
So, Lucas is having trouble. Lucas has got a lot of damage on that number 2. And that looks to me... Was that a little bit of contact? It was! So, contact is taking the Frenchman out of this race just 16 laps in. I'm not quite sure where to land the blame on that one, Randy, or whether it was a racing incident. Maybe Lucas running just a little bit too tight of a line. And actually, it looked as though maybe the driver ahead, the number 45 of Jonathan Diggs, has hit a bump and almost bounced up into that higher lane.
This track is not completely smooth. Remember, in real life, in order for IndyCar to go back to this racetrack, they repaved this circuit. We do not have the repaved layout on the sim, so there is some bumps and there is some issues on the racetrack that cause some imperfections. One of the big ones for these drivers is actually the curbs on the inside of 3 and 4, and even 1 and 2. You don't want to get on those curbs, especially when you're slinging around the outside there at 170, 180 miles an hour. It just upsets the aero package of the car. The entire aero balance shifts, and it just basically spits you out and spins you around. Not something you want to do. And if you get too close to those curves, there are a couple of awkward bumps all the way around the bottom side of the racetrack there. So wouldn't be surprised whatsoever if that's exactly what happened, and if he maybe found a bump, and that's what saw him push up the racetrack into Lucas Laville, whose day is pretty much unfortunately done. Nate Michael, by the way, we saw him having good pace just a handful of laps ago. That has since flip-flopped. He's had a couple laps that were quicker, but that gap opened up from about 0.5 of a seconds out to 7. But actually, that said, Matt Cook having a terrible lap last time. Now the gap back down to 5.5 tenths.
And for Nate Michael as well, this could start last him around 2 tenths quicker than Matt Cook, so clearly reeling him in. He's got a bit of a draft. He's looking for a little bit of clean air as they head down that back stretch towards turns number 3 and 4. So they head themselves into this. It's a much wider turn for 3 and 4, but of course the wind is going to be pushing them a little bit up the racetrack. You may be able to see it on 4. The driver's just having to fight the car just a little bit. We've had a change for 3rd position. Team Wilson Yami has got ahead of Jan Hoffman and is now on that final step of the podium.
Yeah, so both the teammates, I think, maybe playing a little bit nicely with one another here, Jack. Because remember what we've had in this championship when it comes to that, entire group there at Vortex. They've just not had the sort of luck that you would expect from that group, and it's been nothing but drama, especially drama amongst themselves as a team. It seems like every single race we get a big group of Vortex cars together somewhere near the start, and then we end up losing about a third or so of them, all involved in the same incident. So definitely good to see them playing nice with one another, and it's nice to see them not just all packed on top of each other like sardines in a tin can.
Yeah, they're nice and spread out over the track. Josh Chin has got himself past Johnny Garrett, so Josh is back up into the top 5. Robert Grosser now looking down to the inside of Johnny. Johnny's got the high line off of turn number 4. Little wiggle as he gets up towards the wall. Grosser down to the inside. This is the 3-time champion of the Classic IndyCar Series. Won the first 3 championships on the trot, and ever since hasn't quite been able to defend those championships the way he'd like. Now he's down to the inside, but Andrew Aitken is on his outside. He's struggling for a little bit of drive off the corner by the looks of things, Randy. The tyres are now about 24 laps old. They're going to start to be wearing off just a little bit. In these high temperatures, they're going to degrade a lot faster than usual.
Yeah, they definitely are, and it's going to be not a great situation for them whatsoever as these tires slowly burn off. You see them go through 1 and 2, and you see right there the driver on the bottom of the racetrack having issues. That's Joni Kajanen running down there as the tires just get slowly gotten older and older. That's going to be a consistent thing. You're not going to be able to fight on that bottom line through corners number 1 and 2 on the old rubber the way you were towards the start of this race. Is down the front straightaway. You see this little pack continue to come through. Josh Chin is, we saw him earlier pick up that spot and get ahead of that little battle group. He has not been able to really blitz away from them. He's actually in front. Johnny Garrett and Andrew Aitken, they're going at it once again.
And for Johnny Garrett and Andrew Aitken, this is a battle that hasn't been finished. Aitken's got the outside line. Garrett's got the inside, and Aitken's just going to drive around in that middle groove, Randy. Around the outside, slightly better traction mid-corner, and could just have a little bit more power, a little bit more speed. And that momentum going to bring him round. He's going to get himself up into 7th position. He's got about a second ahead to the driver of Josh Chin in that 93.
Yeah, that's going to be a difficult pack for him to be able to reel in to get to Josh, but can potentially do it as we've seen sort of the pace ebb and flow here. And like we just talked about, Nate Michael was reeling in Matt Cook, got to about half a second, and then he immediately sort of lost that time. We do have a car peeling off on towards pit road, trying to see who it is. It is Marshall Stanley, who's already 1 lap down, so unfortunate there for Marshall. But I don't think he's a lap down because of coming down pit road. I think he's had some other dramas form up out there on the racetrack. So I was thinking maybe there's some interesting strategy call being made by someone, but I think that's just that driver not having the greatest race in the world. Yeah,
I think you're exactly right there, Andy. Marshall just seems to be a little bit down. The same with the driver of Todd Novastad, the other driver out on track, which is 1 lap down, and everyone's currently trying to make their way through. The driver that's just gone down the inside is the driver of Jamie Wilson, teammate to Josh Chin. So Team T Chimera cars currently running up in the top 10, 5th and 6th, although Wilson's ahead of Chin, which is something you don't usually see. It's a long time yet for Josh Chin to be able to make up some more places.
Yeah, Jamie's actually the next car for position for Josh Chin, and that gap is about 1.4 seconds on the racetrack at the moment. That said, Josh is looking the quicker of the two, reeling in some big chunks of time, but he's also the fact that Jamie's dealing with some dirty air. Got Jan Hoffman in front of him. It's important to remember, the farther we go on these tires, the worse that dirty air is going to feel. Of course, it's not that the cars are punching a bigger hole or anything like that. It's just you don't have as much grip on the tires, so it's going to feel like that dirty air is going to be having a much larger effect than it is in actuality, as these guys just work the way around the racetrack still. As we start thinking about first round of pit stops, We're expecting about 60 laps without fuel saving here, Jack, but of course with the slipstream and with the draft and the fact that you naturally have to lift through 1 and 2, you might do a little bit longer here. Jamie's going to get a run here on on Jan Hoffman for fourth.
And Dan looking to the inside is Jamie Wilson, but he's not going to pull out of the draft into turn number 1 this time. He's running a slightly tighter line than the 05 car ahead as they head themselves down into turns numbers 3 and 4. Again, just not deciding to come out of the draft. Running a tighter line to the outside. Jan Hoffman goes. Jamie Wilson down to the bottom side of the racetrack. And as they come off turn number 4, they're side by side over the timing stripe. Just around half a tenth of a second is going to split the two. But still, Jamie Wilson not having the pace to get it done into turns number 1 and 2. Still looking down to the inside through 3 and 4. Again, not having the run off the corner there, Randy, to be able to get through on Jan Hoffman.
Yep, and them fighting side by side for that is going to quickly bring in that second Team Chimera driver of Joshua Chin. You see that purple and white car just in the background, just flashing through the camera shots. Jamie's going to have a run. Does he duck out into the inside here down towards turn number 1? These cars don't draft up as aggressively as some of the newer ones, so you just can't quite get there. But you see Hoffman, he's going to run the middle. Jamie tries to take advantage, running the bottom, but not quite able to get there and can't quite get the job done as these tires are falling away. Probably just hard to make it stick down there. To the inside through 3 and 4. I'm surprised Ian Hoffman's running a lane up here on this end of the racetrack. This is going to open the door potentially for Wilson again.
And this is where Jamie Wilson needs to watch out. Just one small mistake from Jan Hoffman, and he's got his invitation to get through on the inside, make a move, and seal his place in 4th position for the time being. But while all of this is happening, Joshua Chin is closing in behind, just 6 tenths now between himself and his teammate. But Jamie Wilson now looking to the inside. He might have finally got the run off the corner. He has Jan Hoffman got the traction up the top side of the racetrack to be able to run into turn number 1 slightly quicker. Side by side across the timing stripe they go. 3,000's going to split them, and side by side into 1 and 2. I think Jan Hoffman may run a line too high, but it's still going to mean that they're going to be side by side for turn number 2. Jamie Wilson not quite having the run, and here comes Josh Chin to try an advantage off of it.
And he's going to have the slipstream here all the way through 3 and 4. You see Josh, big lift on entry due to all that dirty air, but look at the run. He's going to get off the corner. He's going to be able to get up the inside nearly of Jan Hoffman, and nearly able to follow Jamie through in towards 1 and 2. Once again, Hoffman defends on that outside line, trying to make it stick, and once again the momentum is going to pay off in dividends here. I talked about 20 laps ago the fact that the outside line is often where you want to be through 1 and 2, and it's because of that right there, the momentum you can carry. And here goes Josh now. He's going to try and move on his teammate.
And Joshua Chin down to the inside of Jamie Wilson. Can't see Jamie putting up much of a fight, and he doesn't. So Josh Chin going to move himself ahead of Jamie, back to where he qualified in 5th. And now he can put his eyes forward and try and open a gap to get both of them through.
What's
on the
happening
driver
to Nate Michael? He's lost 2 seconds to Matt Cook.
And yes, he's dropped right back to Team Wilson Yami, because this is Yami now right on the tailpipe of Nate Michael as they head off for turn number 4. Side by side, they will go across the timing strike to complete lap number 38 of 200. Something happened to Nate Michael. I don't know. I reckon maybe his tyres is falling off, and his tyre degradation is a lot higher than everyone around him, because Team Wilson Yami making it look easy getting down to the inside before they've even thought about turning into turn number 3.
Definitely seems like the case. He's not had one big lap where he's dropped all that time either, is the other thing. I was expecting looking at the lap charts to see like a 28 or a 29 in there and say, oh look, he had a big wiggle, that's where all that time went. But no, that's not the situation. So the 15, Nate Michael struggling out there on the tires. We are expecting the fuel run to be about 60 laps here today, so we're about 2/3 the way through the run on the fuel and the tires. But like it was said in our briefing, that's 59 laps without a draft and without fuel saving. And we're already seeing, Jack, with the way that drivers are having to lift through 1 and 2 and lift through 3 and 4 due to all the dirty air, you are naturally going to save fuel around this racetrack.
We had, I can't say have, we had a car stopped on the exit of turn number 2. No caution needed, however. Todd Novasard has hit trouble off the exit of turn number 2. And it looks as though, yeah, he just lost the rear end. Very easy to do. A little bit too much speed. He was quite a long way off the racetrack, hence the reason why we didn't have a caution.
Yep, we're getting a look at that right now, and you see off of turn 2, just big snap oversteer and down in towards the inside wall. Nothing you can do about that, and it's a very, very easy thing to have happen to you as Jamie Wilson still working the back again. Hoffman's going to get a big run off of turn 2. This might be Jamie's best opportunity yet down this back straightaway and in towards 3 and 4. And I wouldn't be surprised if you see that number 8, the number at 93 ahead of him of Joshua Chen, probably going to give Jamie as much slipstream as he can. And with that, Jamie's able to pull by the Vortex driver.
So Jamie Wilson now getting ahead of Jan Hoffman. To set number 1 they will go. So 4th and 5th now for the Team Chimera guys, and they need to set their eyes forward.
Oh, we got a
Nate Michael! Nate Michael has done exactly what Todd Novosad did just a couple of laps ago, and he has made heavy contact with that concrete wall. A very much a lack of wings on that number 15. 2 races in a row he has hit trouble. No caution, ladies and gentlemen, but Nate Michael is out of the motor race.
Yep, we're watching that incident right now. He's going to see down to the bottom through 1 and 2, cycles up to the top of the racetrack, and it's pretty much the same exact incident. He spins a little bit further around coming off of turn 2 during the spin, but beyond that, it's the picture identical incident to the one that we just had with the back marker there, so of Todd Novosad. So going to be something to think about here, Jack. People struggling with the tires. A hot race day on a very difficult racetrack to keep the tires good and strong underneath you.
And it's keeping those tires strong for the whole fuel run. It's going to be interesting if we see anyone coming in, depending on whether their tires are going. Logykal is doing a very similar strategy to what he did at Pocono, pitting early and getting the fresher tires and maybe trying to make some ground up on the people ahead of him. That could be a good idea, but it all depends on whether he gets some clean air. Randy, 10.3 second stop. This is also going to give us a good indication of how much pit time people will lose today by coming down onto pit road under a green flag pit stop.
Yeah, and you don't really want to lose a lap here as we catch up with Logykal. He's going to fall quite a long ways, definitely going for the undercut strategy here. And it's definitely a risk, especially for a race, Jack, that seems like has all the indicators. Oh, never mind.
This for Logykal could be perfect. 35 was stopped out of turn number 3. That's Carsten Brodvey. He's got a lack of rear wing as well.
Well, let's see what happened here, as he seemingly had a lack of rear traction, I would assume, as well.
Nope.
In towards 1 and 2. Did he get help from Tristan Hauser in towards turn 3? I really don't know what Tristan was doing, if I'm entirely honest.
No, I'm not either. I just looked at that. It's almost like he was going for the middle groove and didn't realize there was a car on his right-hand side.
Yeah, so we'll watch this again. You see him get the run down the back straightaway, and Carson is holding his line. Tristan pulls out, kind of needlessly goes back up the racetrack. Maybe a little bit of decent little net code there, but yeah, I don't know. I think Tristan made that a lot closer than it needed to be.
I would definitely agree on that one. So Carsten Brodvey, another driver who has been knocked out of the race, and it means that we will be going into our first caution period, and no surprise, everyone's on pit lane.
Yep, everyone on pit road here after 48 laps. Definitely close enough to the 59 we're expecting on fuel for everyone to come down and make their scheduled pit stops. And especially for tires, that's what everyone is going to really want as well. Possibly even see some drivers getting repairs as well.
And actually, I say that, I've eaten my own words really, because Logykal has stayed out, but that's because he's just been down onto the pit lane. Some drivers behind him also stayed out. I feel like these are guys who maybe won that down towards the back of the field. This is going to be their chance to push themselves up the order a little bit. And the current leader of the race is Josh Baird in the 23, with Sasha Lamp, who started 22nd on the grid, currently running in second, Randy.
Yeah, so these guys obviously going for a weird decision here, not coming down pit road. None of them have pit, so it's definitely odd for them to still be out there and circulating on the racetrack like this. I don't think any of them is pit. And yeah, the answer is going to be no to that. But yeah, definitely weird there to see guys staying out like this. And
Josh is pitting.
Yeah, the 23 is coming down pit road, but is the 42 coming down pit road? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Thank goodness.
Okay, so Sasha Lamp is also coming down pit road, which means that everyone will have made their first stops. And we are going to have a talk to the winner from Pocono and the driver who unfortunately ended his race in a concrete barrier. And that is, of course, Lucas Laville, who retired 30 laps ago. Lucas, rear group penalty for you today, and you had to try and fight your way through that mid-pack, and just an unfortunate end to this race.
Yes, indeed. It's on me. I have nothing to say. I didn't have to pinch Jonathan that much, trying to make the pass, but I did, and netcode got in the way for this one, on my end at least. I don't know for you guys, but for me it was that. So yeah, disappointing considering what the guys are showing or were showing during this stint. Timo's up there, Robert's up there as well, Jan is up there. Everybody's all Vortex is there, so it goes to show everything that the guys do for this team and to get a good car every week for us to be contenders every time.
And well, we know that these guys are quick. They're really competitive up at the sharp end of the field. And it goes to show good preparation can yield off some good results. And I guess for you, you're coming into here, you're knowing that last time the Classic IndyCar Series was here in 2016, you won this race. You won the last race out at Pocono. It was always going to be a tough job for you today, but did you think that you could get it onto victory lane?
Yeah, I feel like I could have. I feel like I've been driving very well this year, and I could have been on par with Timo, who's the fastest of us this week, and he was catching up to Matt and doing pretty well. So I feel like with a bit of luck, like at Pocono and strategy getting in the way, I could have been winning this one, but it's what it is. I still have a good shot at P3 in the standings. I think top 2 is pretty much dead in the water now. So I'll do my best in the remaining races to secure that top 3 for Vortex, and we'll see from there.
And well, Lucas, before we let you go and enjoy the rest of this race with your team, who would you like to give a shout out to today?
Big shout out to the guys for the car this week. It was really great for as long as I could drive it. Shout out to you two, Jack and Randy, for these awesome broadcasts every single time. Can't watch enough of the Pocono race, to be honest. And big shout out to all the drivers making this possible every week for us.
And while Lucas Seville had a premature end to his race here at Gateway today, Randy, and as the field starts to form up to go back to green flag racing, we're going to leave Lucas to go and enjoy the rest of the race. Matt Cook is going to lead us round to the green flag. Josh Chin is in second, Timo Sanyemi in third. As we heard, Timo Sanyemi was catching up to the driver of Matt Cook at the start, and the driver of Nate Michael just seemed to be there. All of a sudden dropped off. Pace car is on to the pit lane, and we're back to green flag racing here at Pocono. 149 laps remaining to run. And we are green. Everyone nice and single file with these restarts back underway. And Randy, nice clean start. We've got a Matt Cook versus Josh Chin battle for the lead.
And what a leap by those top 2 over Timo Sanyemi. Tipo absolutely sleeping at the wheel, and he's got a big gaggle of cars lined up behind him. Teammate Jan Hoffman and Jamie Wilson bottled up, as well as Andrew Aiken at the tail end of this little 4-car quartet as they come off of turn 4. So for Jan Hoffman, taking a little nice and calm maybe on that restart, could have himself some issues here and not too long from now if those drivers get there, as Josh is trying to get to the back of that 6 of Matt Cook.
Maybe we're just seeing some of these drivers being very careful on that throttle. Of course, you don't want to spin out those rear tyres at low speeds because it will spin you around. And at Gateway, it's not a very wide track. You'll very easily put yourself into a wall, cause yourself some unnecessary damage on the car. You better be safe than sorry, especially in these early stages with these caution restarts. This is what second green flag period we will go that time around. The lap times for the top 3, top 4, pretty much unbreakable. The fastest driver that lap, in fact, actually was Jamie Wilson, currently sat in 5th, putting the pressure on Jan Hoffman for 4th.
Yeah, so Jamie doing everything he can. Of course, he has a double slipstream at the moment, and on fresh tires, we saw that dirty air, at least through 1 and 2, wasn't much of a problem. See the run down the front straightaway, keeps about even with the Jan Hoffman with the slipstream, and in towards 1 and 2. You might see him fish a little bit for dirty air, but you see they're basically running in each other's tire tracks. Remember what we saw about 15 laps ago before we went to caution? Drivers were absolutely not doing that on the old rubber, so the new tires paying off in dividends for everyone.
And these new tyres also mean they can run a slightly tighter grove. They can take a little bit more speed through the corners. There's a lot more grip on this sticky rubber, and as the track temperature starts to come down as we head into the afternoon, yeah, temperature will also come down with it, but the clouds non-existent today. The sun is beaming down onto the racetrack, and it's still 48 degrees Celsius. And the wind's not helping these drivers through turns number 3 and 4, pushing the car wide up into the wall in turn number 4. And as they head that way, Jan Hoffman looked to be going a little bit higher than the driver, Jamie Wilson, then came back down to cover the move that could have happened had he opened the door just a little bit. They're all following in the tracks of Timo Sanyemi just ahead. Still within a second of the driver, Matt Cook, in the lead here, Randy. But just quite have the pace to catch up.
And it may not be Matt Cook in the lead for long as Josh Chin gets a run off of turn 2 and down the back straightaway in towards 3 and 4. Finds the inside line. And are we going to have our first lead change under green? Yes, we are. Josh Chin goes to the head of the field. But does Matt have a run? And can he fight back into 1?
And into turn number 1 we were ahead. Matt Cook tucking right up behind the 93 of Josh Chin as they head themselves through 1 and 2, getting right down to that inside curb. It's not going to be, and I think Josh Chin may just have the pace. 2 laps to go. He was the fastest car out on track for that lap. We'll see what the lap times are like this time around to compare the two. And while all this is happening, slowly allowing the group behind to close up. Your top 8 are currently covered by no more than 2.5 seconds. Now, and the top 10 is only covered by 4.5. Still very close at the front. The dirty air not seeming to be affecting these drivers too much now, Randy. But still, some of the drivers are very quick. In fact, Joni Kynan down in 14th place, really being helped by the draft in the clean air. And really setting those lap times to try and push himself up through the field to make use of his alternate strategy.
Yeah, and the problem is for Joni is that even though it seemed like he may have timed it perfect, this is a sort of racetrack here at Gateway that's not necessarily the strategy you want to go with of coming down pit road, hoping to catch a caution, because you cannot stay on the lead lap here when that caution flag comes, or when you come down pit road under green flag conditions. So that's exactly what happened to Joni. He lost that lap, and when everyone came down pit road, yeah, he was able to stay out and pass them, but he passed him simply to get his lead lap back, and he just tagged the back end of the field. So a bit of a strategy mistake there by those drivers, as Joni still trying to battle his way through a bunch of cars that he would have had the tire advantage on had we stayed green, and that would have been coming down pit road, likely around right now, but he's just kind of locked back there and can't really do much with it.
And these drivers have got to be careful. So a little bit side by side, just a little bit earlier on, a couple of laps ago between the leaders once again. I think Matt Cook may be getting a run through turn 1, however, nothing could be made from it. The top 8 now, the top 10 now, pretty much all very much certain in place. Sasha Lamp is up 11 positions so far today, currently running in 11th, Randy. Biggest mover in the shaker so far in the opening part of this race, putting the pressure onto Andre Dulio in front in that number 51.
Yeah, so these guys doing everything they can in this mid-pack, really struggling. Well, not necessarily struggling, but not having quite that ultimate pace. And I'll tell you, this is a racetrack that's not fun to have the car not feel comfortable and be stuck in this mid-pack as you see that 51 car all the way up in the 3rd lane there through corners number 1 and 2. Not where you want to be. The 2nd lane is good. That's generally where you want to stick it. But that top lane just a little bit too tight, trying to wrap around the outside.
And we've got side by side for the race lead. Matt Cook down to the inside. He's managed to get himself back up in front. Still side by side into turn number 1 and 2. There's Josh Chin, got the pace around the outside. I think he might have done a much better run. And Josh Chin, he's up, he's round, he's lost his front wing. And how anyone ever missed him, I do not know. We're back under caution. Honestly, I'm befuddled as to how no one else got involved in that accident between the two leaders there.
Yeah, and we're going to have another peek at this because once again, I'm surprised Josh is so aggressive here. Coming off of turn 2, it's difficult to keep that car pinned to the bottom, and Josh really did try to isolate Matt Cook down to that bottom side of the racetrack. I'm just trying to find alternate onboard angles we may have, but we're going to have to slow this down here, and we saw Josh at the start of the race. He was very, very aggressive on the restart, really pinching drivers and getting up the inside any way he could, and I think he cut it a little bit too close than he should have there, Jack. That's a tight situation to try to keep yourself in and try to limit Matt Cook to running, trying to pinch him down like that. One slight mistake ends your race, and we've seen Josh Chin outside of a lot of these races early that he's had the sort of speed and capable speed of winning. But now after a short run, here comes some alternate strategy calls. Your top 2 are going to stay out of Matt Cook and Timo Sanyemi, I believe is who it is. Jan Hoffman, Jamie Wilson, a couple other drivers, Tristan Hauser, coming down pit road after what was about a 10 to 15 lap run.
So these guys deciding that they're going to go for the new tyre strategy. And others are quite a lot of people going down to pit lane. More than I would have expected after only about 20 laps. But back under caution once again here at Gateway. And Matt Cook, Randy, has managed to come away with that without any damage.
Yeah, and I mean, that's sort of, a little bit of a surprise. I would have expected the way that contact kind of formed up that the 6 car may get sent around as well. So it's just sort of another situation of Josh really drawing the short straw there. Of course, trying to rein in points on that series champion, points leading driver of Matt Cook any way he can. And, maybe trying to pressure him and maybe scare Matt off the line a little bit. But for Matt, this ends up working out absolutely beautifully because he's going to have a huge advantage out there on the racetrack. I don't think anyone's really had anywhere near the pace compared to Matt Cook as Josh did. I think Josh was really the primary competition there for that 6 car, and now with him pretty much locked out of this race, it's going to be a disaster and pretty much a dream scenario for the 6.
The only driver that I can think of who could possibly challenge is either Timo Sniemi. Timo Sniemi has been quick. Nate Michael was quick, but obviously no longer in this race as well. We have 16 cars left out on the racetrack as Marshall Stanley, down in that 16th position, has decided to bring himself down onto pit lane. He's actually done a 40-lap stint, so he pitted very early on, or at least he came in to get some damage repaired early on, and he's going to get himself back out and away in just a few moments' time with a full tank of fuel and 4 brand new tyres on his IR05. This is going to be interesting. See how these drivers deal with this second restart, Randy, because they all know what they now need to expect. Do people start risking it a little more? Maybe even go for that first gear start and try and get a good jump over everyone ahead of them.
I mean, I think it's definitely advisable, especially up near the head of the field. I don't, it's the wheel spin's always a potential problem. That said, the driver that opted to stay out on the old tires, it's likely that they're going to be a little bit calmer coming towards this restart. The drivers on new rubber, they're going to be probably a little bit more aggressive and able to probably stick that thing into the floor and potentially get an advantage on those drivers out in front of them. Drivers that came down pit road, by the way, restarting about 7th. So for those drivers up near the head of the field on the old tires, they don't really have much of a buffer before those drivers with the new rubber.
Now it is. That's going to be interesting to see how they make their way through the field, especially if they've got some slower cars up ahead of them. On the newer rubber, they're going to have a nice advantage, going to be able to run that mid to high groove on the track a lot more comfortably for the opening first 10-15 laps of this green flag period as the lights come off on the iRacing pace car. And we are going to go back to green flag racing next time by everyone just getting themselves ready and composed for the off. Josh Chin hasn't re-emerged from the pit lane, still very heavy damage to this car, Randy. I wouldn't expect to see him back out on the track to complete this race.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. It's going to be, I think, a big ask for that to happen. But, man, talking about Matt Cook, the situation he's being put in to come into this race with such a huge championship lead coming off the summer break, and he's probably going to be looking to probably put another huge bag of points into his back pocket here today. He's led pretty much the entirety of this thing. About 10 laps Josh led out there at the head of the field. Then, of course, we saw what happened between the two of them as we get ready to come back for this restart.
As the drivers head themselves into turns numbers 3 and 4, Matt Cook is going to be heading them back to green flag racing. He's dominated today so far. He got pole position, one of the fastest drivers in practice. And as the iRacing pace car, he's going to have to defend that lead from Timo Sniemi. He's going to hold the field long and he's going to jump. Timo's slow. And already Matt Cook has got a 6/10 advantage. We've got a car around into the wall. That's the number 56. We're back to caution, Randy. And
well, that
Tristan
was a long
Hauser.
run.
No, that was a really short run of half a straight. As Tristan Hauser now is the next driver to be caught out by that 9,000 RPM kill switch.
I have to wonder again what Tristan was doing. We just saw him have an issue just a handful of laps ago. I think the incident that brought out the caution. And then right here, he's trying to line up the inside to jump the start. He's trying to time the restart as much as he can. And we saw it on the onboard. You're going to see it with the TV cameras as well. If you watch him, he tries to jump it, realizes he does too much, and he's going to pass Jamie Wilson by the time he would get to start finish. And he would indeed be penalized for that, for passing on the inside, because you can pass before you get to start finish, but you cannot do it around the inside. You have to do it around the outside. So you see him check up, and he just sort of loses the car. And that's, I'd say, too silly, and I'm going to flat out say rookie mistakes from Tristan Hauser, and not very long, just being, completely unnecessarily over aggressive there on the restart. and luckily it just cost him and no one else.
It almost looked as though he lost it while he was checking up. He didn't actually lose it on the throttle. The fact he got back on the throttle probably didn't help it, but it looked as though the car got loose when he was off the throttle, because I can't hear any throttle application. But as it stands, we are 71 laps into this 200 lap race, and we're going to have a chat, or Randy is going to have a chat to Josh Chin, who 5 laps ago decided that he wanted to end his race in a concrete wall.
Of course, Jack's going to make me talk to my teammate. Josh, first thing, interesting little incident from Tristan Hauser there.
Yeah, it was, lap one overall was interesting.
It was nearly as interesting as your incident with Matt Cook. Talk me about it. Tell me about it.
Oh, just disappointing. Worked all practice. Jamie had a good idea for the car, and it was working, and did some tweaking on it the last half hour, and we had a really fast car. And the last pit stop, well, that first pit stop, put a good adjustment on it, and it was flying. Got up to Matt, got around him, and made a mistake, opened the door back up for him, and racing hard into one, and it just, that's what happens, I guess. Your car on the outside, you got a 50-50 shot of either getting hit or losing it on the exit.
So I know there's been a lot of drama internally at Team Chimera about what endurance series we're going to go with. Because, of course, there's been the discussions about us maybe switching our entry from an LMP1 to an LMP2 entry in SCO, and maybe we're not going to run Neo again. And then we get basically the dream car lineup going in towards Neo, especially for the likes of Jamie and Simon with the TCR car. What do you think the expectations there at at Team Chimera? Actually, TCR works. Team Chimera Racing. There you go. Technically correct. Going in towards that endurance series. Will we see Simon come out of retirement? Will I finally lose weight? Will Josh maybe... I won't say what I'm about to say. But do you think there's going to be any odd expectations there at Team Chimera potentially going into the Neo Series?
You were going to say I'm going to stop wrecking, didn't you?
No, actually. It was going to be much more prejudiced than that.
Oh, okay. No, I'm looking forward. I don't know if we've decided whether or not we're going to run the TCR car in the class yet. I know we've had a rough last 2 seasons over there, but
I think rough
anything's
is a slight understatement.
Yeah, well, Fabrice did take us to bed at Nürburgring, so there's that.
Oof. Well, thanks for... Go ahead.
I don't know. I was just frustrated. It was a really good car, and hopefully Jamie can get a good result out of this. We can get something towards the team points, but at the end of the day, it's kind of a championship killer. You know, even if Matt gets a penalty out of it or something happens, he'll finish top 5, and I'm going to finish 17th. So, hopefully get some luck the rest of the season, but I think that's kind of the championship done and over with.
Well, thanks for joining us, Josh. Unfortunate for you, but good luck to you towards the road courses that are coming up, Road America and Mid-Ohio. Actually, let's be honest. You've not had good luck against Matt Cook in late season Road America races with potential championship implications on hand.
Well, last time the computer didn't want to start up, so I don't have that problem this
yeah,
time
and last
around.
time I got inked.
You did.
I did. All right, we'll see you, Josh. Have a good one. We're going back to green.
Have a good one, guys. Thanks for broadcasting.
Thank you.
Back to you.
Well, that was Mr. Josh Chin, who didn't go for a spin this time. We had a bit of an incident with our current leader, Matt Cook. As we head round to the green flag once again, it's going to be at lap number 74. We'll be going on to 127 laps remaining here at Gateway. And it's going to be Matt Cook once again leading him to the green flag. He's going to be holding a long time once again. He's going to jump early. And again, Timo Sniemi slow on the uptake. Really slow on the uptake this time because Andrew Aiken now looking down to the inside for second position as they head into turn number 1. Will he have the grip on these 25-lap-old tyres? I think he will. So Andrew Aiken going to cycle himself up into second position. But watch out for Timo Sniemi now. Getting the undercut off for turn number 2 into turn number 3. They're going to be side by side once again. But not going to be able to open a door enough to make a move. Now watch for the guys on new tyres filtering their way through the field. Randy And these guys are going to be rapidly quick on these newer
Jamie
tires.
Wilson's one of them, and he's side by side right now. I believe that's the 68 of Johnny Garrett that he's actually, no, I believe it's Josh. No, it is Johnny. I take that back. And Jamie's able to get right around him around the outside. Next driver in line is going to be that 23 of Josh Baird. Driver's been bringing us all of our lap guides thus far for the broadcast this season. So for Jamie, going to try to work this bottom line and start slipstreaming up to these guys. He's going to have a, the tire advantage over this entire group pretty much inside of the top 7.
And the tyre advantage is what you want at this stage in the race. His fastest lap of the race, in fact, is going to go to Jan Hoffman, the leading driver who has made 2 stops and have got these fresher tyres. He's up in 6th position, currently putting the pressure on Sasha Lamp for 5th. He's going to be looking down to the inside into turn number 3. He's going to have to force a door open, getting the draft of Robert Grosser, but on the outside, Sasha Lamp is going to have a slightly better run off the corner. And Jan Hoffman's just going to have to slot in behind and wait his turn and try again into turns number 1 and 2.
Nothing going for Jan Hoffman, but he's going to slot up the inside here a little bit. You see him able to run that car a little bit lower on the racetrack, but you can see just no momentum off the corner for him whatsoever. And of course, as with everyone having the slipstream down the back straightaway, not going to be able to suck up in the draft. And because everyone's kind of running a little bit higher up the racetrack because of that old rubber, not able to get a great run, but he's still going to set it up on Sasha Lamb. Down the front straightaway, pitching up to the outside a little bit was Jan Hoffman. He gets to the bottom of Sasha. Can he hold it around the bottom, or can Sasha keep the momentum up the outside? That was well held by Sasha there around the long way of 1 and 2.
Sasha just seems to have that car working for the mid to high groove. Jan Hoffman trying to get that lower groove to work, but at the moment he's not. Watch out for Josh Baird and Jamie Wilson behind, because Josh Baird is about to lose out to Wilson on the newer tyres to get himself through into 7th position. Down to the inside into turn number 1, he will look, but not going to be able to get himself to go. So Jamie Wilson may be having the same problem. The tyres, okay, they're new, but they're not quite new enough because they've already done 2 restarts, 2 heat cycles, as you call them, Randy, and they're starting to feel their wear already.
Maybe a little bit, but I still have to think that you're in a good situation. I think the main problem is they just haven't gotten any running on them. Those drivers around them on the older tires, they've had the opportunity for those drivers to cool off with quick back-to-back cautions. Everyone's tires really didn't heat cycle on that second bit. They sort of brought it up to about 4th, 5th gear, and then immediately were back to yellow by the time Hauser was done spinning. So now it's going to be a situation every single trip around the racetrack. I think these drivers on new tires are going to get better and better compared to those around them, because everyone else's tires, because they're so old, they're going to start going off much, much quicker.
Battle for 9th position as we head into turn number 1. Johnny Garrett going to be defending from the driver of Joni Kainen. Kainen looking down to the inside in the 77, but wasn't able to try and make a move. These guys both on newer tyres, so it's pretty much an equal pecking fight into turn number 3. They will go. Kainen just a little bit later off the throttle and was able to get himself down to the inside there, Randy. Nice easy move for the Finn, and Johnny Garrett going to have to slot himself in behind.
Yeah, so good move there from the 77. Of course, the driver who kind of went on the alternate strategy, coming down pit road or sooner than anyone else did. So he sort of put himself on the back foot with the way these cautions have fallen. The yellows basically did exactly what he wanted to do, except all it did was put him a lap down and force him towards the back of the field. Everyone else ended up on his strategy more or less with the way things played out. So down the front straightaway, he's going to go with a pretty big gap to the 23 of Josh Baird in front of him, as Jamie Wilson is one of those drivers on the new tires, slowly starting to pick his way through this group, and he's gotten onto the rear wing of Jan Hoffman in that 05, who's also following his teammate of Robert Grosser.
Robert Grosser currently up in 4th. Timosniemi in 3rd. We've got Vortex 3, 4, 5. Jamie Wilson in 6th. Sasha Lamp in 7th. That's a good train of cars running from 2nd down to 7th, because Andrew Aiken's up at the front of this field, but no one seems to be able to match the pace of Matt Cook since the restart. He's currently got a gap of about 2.1 seconds up at the front of the field. As we look at the battle for 4th position, Jan Hoffman trying to eye up a move on Robert Grosser, I feel here, Randy. But I don't think he's quite got the paces. Jamie Wilson down to the inside of the 05, trying to get himself up into the top 5 in this race.
Can't quite get the run, though, off the corner, Jamie Wilson, so he's going to have to settle back in line. They're going to see probably one long train of cars here through 1 and 2. Yeah, I see a few of them go down to the bottom. Jamie sort of runs the middle, and he's going to set himself up for a decent run. Down this back straightaway, going to duck to the inside in towards 3 and 4. About midway down the straight and in towards 3 and 4. He's actually going to pick that spot up on the 05 again, Hoffman. Through 3 and 4, and now down the front straightaway. Now we're going to try to set the move up on Grosser.
And Jamie Wilson, now he's on 17 lap. Newer tyres than the cars ahead of him. Jan Hoffman on very similar age tyres to Jamie as they head themselves down the backstretch for the 86th time. All Jamie Wilson's got to do is try and force that gap open. Hope that Robert Grosser doesn't quite have the grip to defend. Look at the overspeed that Jamie Wilson has as they head towards the apex of turns 3 and 4. And off the 4 they will run, nose to tail across the timing stripe. And into turn number 1. Cannot differentiate the two. Robert Grosser doing an amazing job so far to defend. Side by side they will go, but it's not going to be enough for Jamie Wilson to even open a gap to try and make a move.
Yeah, trying to do everything he can is Jamie Wilson here, but not quite doing. The lead, by the way, is out to 1.6 seconds. Matt Cook over Andrew Aiken. So this is the fight for second, third, fourth, fifth on back. Everyone involved in this little train as that blue Aero X driver is pretty much out in clean air all by himself through 1 and 2 once again. You see Jamie running the bottom, fishing for that clean air, but still just no momentum to come off the top of the racetrack. And you can see Jan Hoffman lurking in the rear view there of Jamie Wilson. Great shot as they run in towards 3 and 4. I'm going to close on Grosser. Will he have the slipstream in the runoff, though? I'm going to say no.
And this may be where the drivers start settling in. Everyone from first through to fourth are currently 2/3 of the way into a fuel and tyre stint. They've just completed the 40th lap. And this could also throw a curveball here, Randy, because if we do run green to the end from here, everyone who's only pitted once, of course they still have to pit twice more, but they'd have to do it under green flag. Everyone else who was pitted twice, who pitted on that last caution, I think just may, be able to get to the end on one more stop.
It's going to be really tight. I'm going to hit you with a maybe. How's that?
Yeah. I think, I'm not saying it's possible, or it's going to happen.
Jack is saying that they're going to make it to the end on one more stop.
But it could be.
He is saying definitively 100% that people will 100% under all circumstances make it to the end on one stop.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. It's not like our predictions have been great so far this year.
Yeah, we'll have to. It's going to be tight. I'm not going to say no, but it's going to be sort of dependent entirely, of course, on the way this race pans out. Because right when I was talking about how this race was having a long green flag run feel to it, we started getting cautions back to back to back. We ran pretty much 50 laps without one, and then within about the next 20, we picked up 3. So these drivers working themselves down the back straightaway once again, that's going to be something they're thinking about in the back of their head. What are we going to do on fuel? And remember, we still haven't gotten an idea of how far these guys can really go on a tank of fuel under green when you're in this sort of pack racing conditions and naturally saving fuel between the slipstream and the lift and coast. We talked about 59 laps if you don't have the slipstream, and of course when you don't have slipstream, it means you don't have dirty air, and you can be a lot more aggressive with the throttle, especially at this end of the racetrack through 1 and 2. But now with these guys running like this, I wouldn't be surprised if there's 3 to 4 laps in it just in natural fuel saving, maybe even more.
Now we have 107 laps remaining in this race. The guys who have pitted once, they are all going to be finishing their 45th lap of the stint. So we expect to see them down onto the pit lane around the 110 lap mark. The guys who pitted twice, they pitted 28 laps ago. They are going to be on the pit lane in around 30-35 lap times. They're going to be on around 124 laps. So this is where the window is going to be opening to be able to get to the end on one more stop. We have got some drivers who have pitted 3 times, however, and they will go just that little bit deeper into the race. So it's there, Randy. It could happen, but I think we might need some cautions.
Jack is definitively saying, with absolutely no doubt in his mind, that they will make it to the end on one more pit stop. I'm not doing you any favors, am I?
No, you're really not.
That's okay.
start to approach the halfway mark in this race. The hour prediction that Randy gave me before, I think before we went live, I kind of feel like that's not going to happen because we were running 53 minutes.
Yeah, that was under the asterisk of they go to the end on all green though.
Yeah, which to be fair they haven't been able to do. So I think if we go to the end from here, I think we'll be able to go till I think we'll be about an hour and 25 minutes, won't it? Which will probably be one of the shortest classic IndyCar races in history.
Probably. We know that the last time that they run this track was, I believe, in 2016, and they had a scheduled 236 lap distance that went 200 laps in the time. 230 laps in the time limit, and they hit that 2-hour time limit. So we're 36 laps underneath that expected, and we're 30 laps underneath what they actually ran in 2016. Of course, 236 laps was sort of the updated distance that the likes of the Indy Racing League and Indy Racing League ran here. 200 laps is what it's pretty much is modern days. But look at the run here between the Vortex teammates, Robert Grosser and Timo Isognemi. This pack has really calmed themselves out. So the racing, even though it seems close, Jack, these guys are really just playing nice with one another. No one's really being over aggressive trying to set up moves. They've just sort of gotten in line and are just calmly circulating around the racetrack. No one's really showing the nose. No one's getting aggressive trying to make moves. They're definitely racing each other and applying pressure, but no one's really, going for it here as we're about to be halfway in 1.25 miles laps.
And yes, as you say that, we almost have side by side between Robert Grosser and Jamie Wilson, but it's almost as if these guys are just settling down, saving some fuel, making sure that they can go as long as they can on this stint. The track temperature's slowly coming down. Not very quickly, we're now down to 47 degrees Celsius, so we have lost 2 degrees Celsius since we started this race, and hopefully as we head on into the afternoon, that drop will continue to happen. Head themselves on to turn at number 4. We have now hit the halfway mark in this 200-lap race here at Gateway. We've done it in 55 minutes. So far, I had 4 cautions and 2 back-to-back. Some unfortunate incidents for some people who we thought were going to be front runners. Nate Michael being one of them, Josh Chin being another, Lucas Leville being a third after starting at the back of the grid. But so far at the front, it's Matt Cook dominating by 1.844 seconds over the driver of Andrew Aiken.
Yeah, and the teammates there, the Aerox drivers being 1 and 2. They've been so consistent with this, and Andrew Aiken's been the one. He's not generally had the sort of pace that Matt Cook has had, being able to get out to the head of the field and blitz away, because of course Matt, one of the best drivers in the IndyCar and one of the best drivers in this older IndyCar for sure as well, has been for going on a decade as long as we've had this thing on the sim. He did take a little bit of a hiatus for a couple years, but he came back I believe in about 2016 and still been just absolutely as impressive as he's always been since getting back into the race car. But my oh my, Andrew Aiken, he's been very impressive as well, consistently getting himself up into those podiums and making sure that little two-man team, little two-car tandem rather, is consistently both on the podiums and both in the top 5s.
And well, as we reach this halfway stage of the race, let's take on board with our biggest mover and shaker so far in this event. That's the number 42 of Sasha Lamb for some RaceSpotTV fan immersion. 110 laps down, 90 to go, and so far it's been about one man and one man only at the front of the field. Mr. Matt Cook has led pretty much every single lap, bar 10 under green flag conditions, after starting on pole position. We're starting to see pit stops begin to happen as we start to get to the end of this second fuel run for the people who have only made one pit stop. Now, this is where strategy gets important, because this is where you can make or break, potentially save yourself 40 to 60 seconds. Get yourself to the end. One more stop from here, you will be pretty much safe. Some of these drivers as well have already pitted twice, so they may actually eradicate that need for a third stop. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Gateway Motorsports Park. Myself, Jack Stars, alongside Randy Chenworth, bringing you all the action for the remaining 88 laps of this race. So far, Randy, we've had a few cautions, but we're under green flag, and everyone's looking pretty sensible as everyone starts to think about this second round of pit stops.
Muted in open broadcast software for the entirety of that statement.
Well, we apologise as Randy has had a few technical issues which should be sorted out now.
AKA,
as Matt Cook,
I'm incompetent.
Yep, that sounds about right. As Matt Cook has managed to bring himself down onto the pit lane, Andrew Aitken and Jan Hoffman going to join him. Jan, that's surprising actually. Someone who's only done 48 laps on a stint. He's clearly pushing it as far as he can go. Jamie Wilson's just gone to step past Timo Yami as well, because Yami's on pit lane. So Jamie Wilson will lead, I think, his first lap of a classic IndyCar Series race.
I'm trying to think if he led another one. I know there was another race he finished up near the top 5. I want to say it was Iowa that he did as Matt Cook comes off of pit road. And I think he may have led a lap there through some pit strategy, but I can't remember exactly. But regardless, Jamie getting out there at the head of the field on the alternate strategy and not keen on coming down pit road just yet. And I actually suspect this 87 car is probably going to push this tank of fuel as long as he can before he hits pit road.
Now, I've just seen Timo Yami hit 67 laps on a tank of fuel. That would mean, if that was to happen, it would push Jamie Wilson into the 60 laps to go. So he can make this pit stop, and he can get, I think, Jamie Wilson, I think these guys who are on the 51st, 52nd lap of their stint, if they can push this as far as the other guys we have seen. We've seen guys go 67 laps on a tank of fuel. Jamie Wilson's been sat in a pack for a very long time. I think he's got a chance of pitting once more and going to the end, where drivers have still got to pit to be able to comfortably get to the end on a tank of fuel.
What's the longest run you said we've seen? 67 laps?
67 laps.
So he needs to get to 133. If he's not getting better fuel economy than that. I'll say right now that everyone at Team Chimera, we do have bits of software. We call it Pitboard, and we can track our fuel usage. Of course, you can do so in the sim as well, but we have actually a web app that we can run that tracks our fuel usage, and it connects to the API. So Jamie will have some pretty intricate fuel economy numbers, and he'll know exactly what kind of mileage he's getting. I'm sure Josh is likely on and helping, maybe even the likes of Simon Trendell as well. Actually, speaking of, Jamie's the only one in the race with an outside spotter, and it is indeed Simon Trendell. So, there's probably an opening for strategy here that maybe Jamie has seen that others haven't, just due to that slight advantage.
And that is always something that Team Chimera seems to be able to do very well, is the strategy side of motor racing. We've not only seen it in the Classic IndyCar Series with Josh Chin a few rounds ago, going one stop on a race where everyone else went two, and he actually took himself down onto victory lane after doing that and winning it on the strategy. But also, they can do it in endurance racing. They really can stretch the fuel. I believe they won the SEO 10 Hours as Suzuka last year by doing exactly the same thing.
Yeah, that was all on the back of Josh Chin fuel saving there. I know they fuel saved the entire distance in the Aston Martin GT1 car, and Josh was able. We were basically going, from what I understand, they were going a full lap longer than everyone else was a minimum on a stint of fuel, and then they threw Josh in the car because Josh is so good with fuel saving, and he went a lap longer than what all of our teammates were able to do because Josh is just unreal at his ability to save fuel. I will say we're coming up roughly on 60 laps since the start of this stint for Jamie Wilson. We know he came down pit road, if memory serves, somewhere around lap number 65 under that caution, 65, 66. We're coming up towards lap 126. That'll make it 60 laps. So he's still 6 laps out. That means that in order to sort of hit that 67 number, he's going to have to go a handful of laps more to get to that lap 133.
I'm not too sure. It's still going to go another 10 laps to be able to get to 133. And as he crosses the stripe this time, he's going to be finishing 58 laps. So if he could do a 67 lap stint like Timo Sinyemi did, I think he might just be safe. However, it is going to be tight. Matt Cook has managed to get himself past the driver of Robert Grosser out on the racing surface. Grosser was down on pit lane just a few laps before Matt, and by the looks of things was able to get back out ahead of him. So Matt having a long stop, 11.1 seconds compared to Grosser.
Oh, we got a car around.
We got a car around. That's the number 25 of Marshall Stanley. He's off the racing surface though. Marshall's really not been having a good day. He's 3 laps down on the leaders. Lost the rear end. It's a very similar accident as to what happened to Nate Michael all those laps ago.
Yeah, not only him as well, but Todd Novosad did the same exact incident a couple laps before we saw Nate Michael do it. So unfortunate there as we just monitor these guys up near the head of the field that haven't come down pit road. A couple other drivers, by the way, that haven't pit, but we haven't talked about. Joni Kajanen, 1.2 seconds back. Remember, he's sort of on the alternate strategy with the way everything falls, but he's trying to do the same thing that Jamie Wilson is going for. Mike Gerlica, about 3 seconds back from Joni. He currently runs third, 4.5 seconds off your leader. He's yet to come down pit road. And then Andre Dolino and Andrew Adair Saunders, both of them have yet to come down pit road, and they're within about 6. Actually, take that back. Saunders just hits pit road this lap, in fact. So a lot of people there near the mid-pack trying to run this fuel out as long as they possibly can. There's going to be another lap that this gaggle of cars goes around the racetrack.
And I think Andrew Adair Saunders may have just made a little bit of a mistake because he has come down onto the pit lane with only 53 laps left on his stint. Had he run this one right to the end and then run another one right to the end on fuel, I think he wouldn't need to stop. He cannot do 74 laps on a tank of fuel. So I think for Andrew Adair Saunders, he may have just dug himself a bit of a grave. Jamie Wilson still at the lead of the race, but Matt Cook, Robert Grosser and Jan Hoffman now, they're all in a pack together. This could be really exciting to watch because these are the guys who have pitted already. They're the leading 3 of the 3 who have already visited pit lane.
Yeah, and they're all tight to one another at the moment as well, aren't they? But, man, this is going to be a... Excuse me. I have to cough in the middle of that and politely mute my mic. This is going to be difficult for them, I think, to pick up, though, if this goes green to the end, because those other guys are going to have such an advantage on the strategy. They're going to only have to come down pit road one time. It is so hard, Jack, on these ovals to have a pit stop disadvantage like that, having to come down pit road an extra time and trying and being able to sort of deal with that advantage and that disadvantage and take it back. On a road course, you can sort of deal with it because you typically see more aggressive fuel saving. There's generally some more tire strategy at play as well. Here, I just honestly think that if these guys can go at the head of the field, if they can just make it on this one final stop, it's probably just going to be one of those 3 that end up winning this race. As actually the 77 of Joni Kajanen, he comes down pit road, and Jamie Wilson hits pit road as well. One has to think that they've hit their fuel number.
They have 65 laps completed for Jamie Wilson. 70 laps remaining in the race.
Yeah, that's close.
That is close. And a caution, I don't know. I'm not sure because we have had a caution as well play into the hands of this one. Mike Gerlica also down onto the lane, which will mean that across the within the next couple of laps, Matt Cook will be able to cycle himself back into the race lead. Second position is going to be Mr. Robert Grosser. So all of a sudden, Robert Grosser is back up at the front end of the sharp end of the field, and Jan Hoffman is going to be on that 3rd position.
Yeah, live timing's going to freak out here for the next couple of moments while everyone kind of cycles through onto it. But yeah, these drivers near the head of the field, going to be an absolutely great situation for them, being able to make this stick. And with this fight of Matt Cook, Robert Grosser, and Jan Hoffman, who's the next driver in line? Going to be Andrew Aiken, and he's 3 seconds back. So it's not been a great middle sort of segment of this run for Aiken as he currently works down the front straightaway. But these top three, the Vortex guys, are going to be pressuring that 6 of Matt Cook as much as they can. Remember, they won out at Pocono. They'd love to go back-to-back.
They would. It won't be with the same driver, but if the team could get back-to-back wins, it would make those guys, like the season for that team, just that little bit better. In 2018, they struggled just a little bit. They've come off the back of 3 championships in a row from Robert Grosser, and all of a sudden, they were being beaten hand over fist. This year, they've regrouped, they've come back, and they've come back even stronger than last year, and they are really putting that pressure back on at the front of the field for championships, for race wins, and for the championship points. And it's just going to be how these guys deal with the next 67 laps. Still a long way to run in at this race. Over 125 kilometers splits these guys from the checkered flag.
And let's see, where do the likes of Jamie Wilson in comparison to your race leaders? 7 seconds back, and there is a potential actual sort of other advantage these guys have, even if they can't make it the full distance, to the end of the race here, Jack. They're going to have the advantage of a shorter pit stop because, we're expecting about somewhere between 60 to 65 laps what you can do on a tank of fuel. That's going to get them to within about 5 laps to the end of the race. Those drivers that pit 10 or 15 laps earlier, they're going to have a slightly longer pit stop with the fuel, and they're probably going to end up taking tires as well. These other drivers that came down pit road late, they're likely going to take a quick splash and dash and not take tires. So expect a shorter pit stop from that group, even if they can't get it to the end of the race on this tank of fuel. They're still going to be very relevant, and they're going to be on fresher tires right here, right now, and that's going to mean that they can probably outpace these guys for a short time as well.
And it's the outpacing that they will need to do. And I'm just looking at my lap charts. Robert Grosser's already 26 laps into this stint. He's got the oldest tyres of anyone out on the circuit in the top 10. The only driver who's got older tyres than him is Johnny Garrett, down in 13th position. We have just 13 cars running out on the circuit, 12 of them on the lead lap. Johnny Garrett being that final driver running in that 13th position. And he is 3 laps down. Someone who was up in the sort of the top 5 earlier on, Randy, he's hit a lot of trouble all of a sudden and really struggling in that number 68.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That 68 car of Johnny Garrett, he's just not had the sort of day you would want. Well, like you said, was kind of up near the front of the field at one point, started this race in 6th, but just gotten on the back foot. And sometimes you just have these sorts of races where things don't go your way. You just end up getting, shuffled down to the tail end of the field. Strategy doesn't go your way. You lose a lap, you lose another lap, and suddenly you find yourself a few laps down. So unfortunate there for Johnny Garrett, but sometimes those are the days that sort of just get dealt your way, as frustrating as it is.
And it's those frustrating days that you have to fight through, come out stronger, ready for the next round and the rest of the series. So Johnny Garrett running down in 13th. A good debut race so far for the driver of Sasha Lamp in 2019. Not the first time he has driven in the Classic Indycar Series, but good to see him returning to the series after, I believe, his debut season last year. Had some good runs. His teammate Adam Shipstone picking up the win at Detroit last year for Torque Freak Racing. And he is currently around 6 tenths of a second actually behind Jamie Wilson, who's slightly dropped off the back of this lead pack now, Randy.
Yeah, Jamie doesn't quite have the speed it would seem like, and we'll actually bring up the comparison of those drivers out in front of them of what the lap gaps are looking like. He's actually had a couple laps that were quick, but I think starting to fall back from that primary group as a whole. He's currently 7.2 seconds back, which is actually not too far off of what he had when he came off of pit road. So, but you'd still be expecting him to be out there on the newer tires, likely outpacing that entire lead group. So maybe some fuel saving coming in from the number 87 car of Jamie Wilson, just out there cruising. Loses another tenth to Matt Cook that next trip around the racetrack. So Going to be interesting to see how this is panning out for Jamie, whether or not he's fuel saving, or then again, if he's just losing time to those top three. Those top three have been sort of pretty much the prime cars absolutely all afternoon. Could have inserted Josh Chin into that trio as well, make it 4 cars, but of course him getting caught up early, as it looks like the 77 and the 43, they might be fighting for 5th.
And another driver who has been strong today, starting in 3rd. He got his first CIS podium here back in 2016, currently running down in 10th position. That's Mike Gerlicher, down 7 positions. He is one of the most recent stoppers as well. And it just seems to be, he might have had the quali pace here today, Randy. Really did look quick in the opening stages, but as we've progressed into the race, he hasn't quite had the pace to stay there at the sharp end of the field.
Yeah, so unfortunate, and it's the way this racetrack can be. You get buried in the dirty air. We've talked about it a lot in modern era IndyCar. You see the fact that they've run at places like Phoenix, and the way that the racing kind of goes there and how difficult it is to pass. We've seen gateways difficult to make your way through the field if you've not don't have a very fast race car underneath you. Doesn't matter how well you were able to qualify. But still, we've seen a couple of drivers be able to make their way through the field as the car blows up on pit road. Makes it sound like we have some drama, but that car has been stopped there for a while. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Driver that started and was up sort of near the pointy end of the field for a bit, but once again has sort of gotten buried in the mid-pack and has just sort of stabilized there.
And that's where he's quite happy running there. Good points haul as well for Mike Gerlicher going forward into the rest of the championship. And of course, in 2 weeks' time, you can join us. We're back on the road course. It's going to be our first road course for quite a long time, Randy. We're going to go to Road America, a very different circuit and a very interesting circuit, especially when it comes to how it acts with the IndyCars.
Yeah, Road America, an absolutely fantastic racetrack. I think it might be the premier road course in the United States. I think it's somewhat snubbed by really the only big race it has being IndyCar. Of course, IMSA going there as well, but I wish we had more of a prime time event that went towards Road America. It'd be an absolutely fabulous Formula One track. I'll say that for you right now. But it's absolutely great. Long straights means great passing opportunities. And talking about passing opportunities, here comes Ison Yemi on the 27 of Andrew Aitken. Going to get up the inside here. And he's just about going to have that job done as they work through turns number 3 and 4. And Yoni Kaisen trying to follow through, but not quite able to do so. But move Ison Yemi up into 4th, which puts Vortex cars 2nd, 3rd, and 4th.
And watch out for Yoni Kainen looking up the inside of Aitken. You thought he might have been able to make a move, but there was no move going to happen last time around the racetrack as we head on to lap 147. Aitken running a slightly higher line through 3 and 4. Can Kainen advantage from it? Don't think he can. We're slowly approaching that 3/4 distance mark as they head into turns number 1 and 2. Once again, still, Yoni Kainen can't quite open enough of a gap to try and get himself through.
Yeah, and the way that this trio has been so equal for so long, that actually seeing that pass actually come in is a little bit surprising. Just keeping an eye on some of the other fights. 0.2 of a second. Currently the gap right now between 2nd and 3rd place on the racetrack. Both of them teammates. They're trying to just keep tabs with Matt Cook, so you're not going to see them really pressure one another. So we're going to go back to likes of Yoni Kaisen and Andrew Aitken. You see them still nose to tail within 1/10 of a second off of turn 2 and down the back straightaway. Yoni going to be working the slipstream and the peak to the inside in towards turn 3, and the 77 is going to try the move.
This is where he needs to get the move done through 3 and 4. Has he got the drive off the corner? I don't think he has. They're still going to be side by side as they come across the timing stripe. Yoni Kainen is going to be ranked ahead of Andrew Aitken, but Aitken running a little bit more speed, running that higher line on the 1 and 2. And going to be able to try and get himself around the outside. He's going to do it. He's got back past around the outside. Yoni Kainen all of a sudden is back to where he started a lap ago. He's in the draft of the driver of Team Yemi, the fellow Finn, helping him to try and pull him forward, but I don't know whether it's going to be enough, and they're still going to be side by side almost as they head across the timing stripe this time.
I thought he was going to slide inside. In a lot of ways, T-Bone Ison Yemi dictates this fight. He's running the bottom line through 1 and 2, which has given Yoni a big bite of dirty air, and look at Yoni. He goes defensive after getting just about clear off of turn 2, but Aitken going to be able to pull up nearly alongside, but it's going to be Kaijin actually. He wants to throw the move on Ison Yemi through 3 and 4, and he made that look easy, I think. Is down the front straightaway. He will move his way up into 4th.
And Kainen now into 4th, Andrew Aitken. is going to still be trying to defend off from Team Justin Yabe. Justin Yabe's not going to be happy. He's going to want to try and cycle himself back up to where he was. He's down to 6th. He's lost 2 positions in as many laps into the inside. He will go into turn number 3. Has he got a slightly more advantage over the driver ahead? I don't think he has. Side by side of the exit of turn number 4 they go, and it is neck and neck as they cross the line. We're now into the final 25% of this race, and these drivers are very slowly closing in on that final 100 kilometers.
Yeah, and the question has to be, when do you come down pit road? We know a lot of these drivers on the altering strategies, you know, do you maybe come down pit road and blink a little bit earlier, but we know it's potentially at risk. We saw what happened to this driver, the 77 of Joni Kajanen, able to battle his way back into a top 4 position, 5 seconds off the 3rd place running car, 6.5 seconds back from that race leader. We know what happens if you pit early. You will lose a lap, and if a caution comes out, you will get buried a lap down at the tail end of the field. So I'd be shocked if anyone comes down pit road early compared to their scheduled lap time, but it has to be something maybe someone considers if you're trying to make something of this in the late stages of this race. And of course, we still have the cars. I think the 77 of Joni Kajanen, remember, Joni on a very, very similar strategy. What?
Jan Hoffman from 3rd, he's pitted after 40 laps, so clearly going for that early stop. He's going to risk it. 46 laps remaining in the race, and Jan Hoffman's going to be taking his final stop of the race. That's I'd say that's almost too early if you wanted to be competitive. He'll get to the end, no problem, but I think he might just be 10 laps too early.
It's going to be interesting because I think this call from him is partially just get his way out in towards clean air and be able to run. It's a 10-second pit stop from him, which is pretty much a full pit stop. That's what you're typically going to expect. We take a look at what his teammate did. Actually, 8.9 for Robert Grosser the last time he came down pit road. So maybe a slightly longer stop than it needed to be for him. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting call there. Going to be interesting to see how it works out. He will, I believe, lose a lap, and indeed he does. Go a full lap down. So if a caution comes out, this is a disaster for the 05 of Jan Hoffman. But if it goes green, he might be able to just sort of alternate strategy his way to sort of an interesting point on the racetrack no one else suspects. I don't hate this call, but it's not an easy one to make, and it's not a clear-cut slam dunk call either.
Andrew Aiken has also made the same call. He has been down onto the pit lane, currently going to be passing that stripe off the pit limit, so he will go and rejoin the racing surface on the exit of turn number 2, and that's going to also push him 1 lap down on your leaders. Matt Cook at the front of the field, 1.7 second advantage over the driver Robert Grosser, and that is growing a lap on lap here, Randy.
Yeah, so I mean that gap is just getting bigger and bigger for the 6 of Matt Cook, who we're pretty much just keeping slight tabs on, and now we're just curious when he's going to come down towards pit road. Last pit stop for Matt Cook. How long has it been? I believe lap 114 was the end lap for him, so coming up on about 45 laps in this run, so about 15 laps, 20 laps there or thereabouts from what we'd expect in the fuel window. That said, with the 6 of Matt Cook, Jack, him being out at the head of the field like this, he's not going to be able to save fuel the way so many of these cars in the mid-pack have been able to do so the entire race. And actually on that topic, the 87 of Jamie Wilson's been sort of an interesting situation as well. We know Jamie's been running the fuel save strategy. We know he came down pit road early and seemingly pretty much hit his fuel window and can potentially make it to the end of the race. However, he came off pit road and he's had clean air and not had the draft for this entire run that he had for the entire run previous, and that is going to affect his fuel mileage over the course of this second stint. So, handful of drivers, we have big question marks raised about what kind of fuel mileage we're expecting from them, as I believe we've had another Vortex driver on towards pit road, the 3 of Robert Grosser. He pitched just a few laps after his teammate did.
So Robert Grosser down onto the pit lane, 51 laps completed in his stint. He's going to hit his marks, stop, and up onto the jacks he will go to get himself some new tyres and back out and away to rejoin the racetrack here at Gateway. And away he goes, a pit stop time of 9.1 seconds. This is going to push him right down to the rear of the field, along with everyone else who's already made that final stop. But Matt Cook staying true out at the front of the field. And as you were saying about the fuel situation, Jamie Wilson, of course we know he has indeed been fuel saving, but I don't think for him to get 70 laps out of that tank of fuel, he needed a draft for the whole 70 laps. And so far, for the 32 laps that he's been out on the track, he's had none.
Yeah, I think if you're Jamie, if that's what you're going for, I think you have to let that 42 car behind you go by. Now, of course, there are potential options. You could potentially naturally fuel save a lot harder in this second stint, knowing you don't have the slipstream, lift a little bit more through the corners, be a lot more tame with your throttle application. Maybe you try and use some of those other fuel trim levels as well, trying to open that gap up and save as much fuel as you can. But I think one of the big things Jamie could do is just let that 42 car get around him and just work the slipstream off of him. Down the back straightaway, Sasha Lamp's going to get a run. Jamie's going to go to the outside, and I would not be surprised to see this 42 pick up this position just because the 87 isn't really racing for it at the moment, and Sasha is going to get just about clear. But actually, Jamie's going to keep pace around the outside, so maybe not going or maybe not designing the draft at the moment. Maybe either realizing one way or another that he can or can't make it, and because of that, doesn't really need the draft at that point.
I think maybe Sasha Lamp may have got loose off the exit at turn number 4, which is why he had that little bit of a wiggle and wasn't able to get the position, and hence why Jamie Wilson has once again solidified himself into that 4th place. And just ahead, Timo Sunyemi is there. Robert Grosser is behind these guys, but of course he is 1 lap down after his pit stop. The next 15 laps, we will see most people have completed their final stop. The only people who we expect to go a bit longer is the likes of Yoni Kine and Jamie Wilson. Mike Gerlicher, who went for a little bit longer. We got a car stopped in turn number 3. We stayed green because they have tow. Matt Cook, the leader, is on pit lane, and so is Sasha Lamp.
So Matt Cook comes down pit road. What's going to be the stint length from him? I believe we said lap 114 was the in lap. He goes to lap 166. So what is that, 52 laps? Relatively short stint from him coming out from your race leader, but he's going to come down pit road later than most of his primary competition. That's going to promote Yoni Kaizen into the race lead, Timo Isanyemi second, and Jamie Wilson in that 3rd spot. And remember, we're talking about the fuel numbers for Jamie Wilson here in the 87. Yoni Kaizen and Timo Isanyemi, they were sort of doing the same strategy, but they came down pit road earlier than the 87 cars. So if we're talking about Jamie can't make it, there's almost no way that those two can't.
I would fully agree on that one. I don't think there's any way that anyone can make it to the end on this tank of fuel. As it stands, everyone seems to be pretty much solidified on making this final stop. I think had we had one more caution, it would have been possible. That caution has not surfaced. We've been green since about lap 80 now, haven't we?
We went green on lap number 74.
Lap number 74. So we have been, in 5 laps time, we would have done half the race, at least, on green flag conditions. We would have had pretty much 100 lap green flag period.
I told you these laps tick off quick.
They do, they really do. And I mean, I'm just looking at the time. We've been going at an hour and a half now with Yoni Kinen up at the front of the field as Matt Cook sets the fastest lap of the race so far. 26.879. That's 3/10 off what he did in qualifying. So either the track's getting quicker or Matt Cook's getting quicker. One of the two. Probably both. But Matt Cook still looking... He's leading everyone who's pitted. I think that's the best way to say it. And he's just set another fastest lap of the race. So with 30 laps to go, Matt's chasing purple times.
Yeah, I mean, he went out there, he came down pit road, got tires, and he's on the lightest tank of fuel he's going to be all race with fresh tires. I see drivers on pit road. I'm not sure who it was. May have been Andrew Aitken. I did see a car on the pit entry, though, as Jamie Wilson. Who's that's going to get around him? That's going to be the 3 car of Robert Grosser, who's on the new tires as well. So Jamie's going to let him through. And actually, that 3 car of Grosser, that's going to be one of the best cars Jamie can have out in front of him. We know that Vortex machine has been fast, so Jamie can really let him by and really slipstream off of him. Didn't really have that same sort of situation with Sasha Lamp, because of course Sasha hasn't had quite that race leading pace where Jamie has been on pace with those cars inside of the top 5. So Jamie now can just sort of sit in line and really work that slipstream off the 3 car of Robert Grosser if that's what he's going for.
As Yoni Kinen back out and away after his final pit stop of the race, he's going to rejoin just ahead of Jan Hoffman in 7th position. And that leaves, by my reckoning, just 4 cars yet to stop Jamie Wilson, Timo Isanyemi. Isanyemi is going to be taking his pit stop this time around. So Jamie Wilson once again going to be inheriting the lead with 27 laps remaining in the motor race.
And that seems like it's a really short run from Eiston. Although, actually, no, I take that back. He came down pit road, lap number 115. I thought Timo went a little bit later on that. So remember,
58 laps for Timo.
Yeah, so 58 laps, basically kind of the expected fuel run. So if that's the number we're expecting, we should be saying Jamie, considering he's not had any slipstreams, somewhere around lap 190 if he's getting the same fuel economy. But I still think this 87 car has been out there fuel saving this entire stint. So I think Jamie's, it's still up in the air whether or not he can go to the end on this tank of fuel. I think it's about 60-40 that he cannot do it. So I'd say 60% chance he has to at least splash and dash. But once again, with him, if he can get to within about 5-6 laps to go of the race, Jack, he's going to be able to come down pit road and just take fuel only compared to all these drivers that have been coming down pit road for full fuel stops. And pit road delta 33 seconds. He's going to lose a number of positions, but I still think he'll just about maintain a top 5.
Well, between himself and Matt Cook is currently 22 seconds.
Yep.
I don't think it's going to be possible for him to be able to get down and out again on a splash and dash and win the race. But I still think for Jamie Wilson, podium, it may still happen. It could still be possible. The drivers that he's got to watch out for, though, Jan Hoffman, Joni Kylan, and Robert Grosser. Robert Grosser currently sitting in second position of the drivers who have made their final stop. Joni Kylan in third, Jan Hoffman in fourth. But Joni Kylan and Jan Hoffman aren't separated by that much out on the racetrack.
Yeah, and it's also one of these things to keep in mind that if Jamie only needs a 2 to 3 second fill, remember we've been seeing about 8 seconds, 10 seconds being the pit stop delta, but the bulk of that is changing tires. If he just needs a short stint, he's going to come down pit road, take fuel only, and he won't take tires. So you might see that 33 second pit delta, which is basically what everyone else has had. You might see that trimmed down to about 26, 27 seconds when it's just fuel only going into the car. And at that point, that sticks him, if he has to come down pit road and if that's what happens, that puts him right around the 3 of Robert Grosser fighting for second.
So it really is going to be close, and we won't know what's going to happen until we start to see cars down onto the pit lane. Matt Cook is still getting faster, though. He set 2 more fastest laps just a few moments ago as he crosses the line this time. It won't be a fastest lap again, but he's getting pretty close to it. He's consistently running in the 26.8s here, Randy, and he's the fastest driver out on circuit of anyone. The closest driver, and as I say that, Jani Kynan, new fastest lap of the race, 26.784.
That's impressive, and he's working that slipstream behind that race leader of Jamie Wilson. Probably what really helped him suck around the racetrack and pick up that lap time as he's trying to reel in Robert Grosser. We'll take a peek at the deltas, and you see 1.1 seconds back. So if what happens with Jamie is what ends up panning out, we'll see a little, maybe potential 3-way scrap for second, third, and fourth out there on the racetrack. If that sort of same delta happens to the 77 of Kaijinen, he's going to pull off to the left-hand side. And I'm going to actually have to say here, Jack, I think Jamie is fuel saving because Jamie was on pace with these sorts of drivers he's dealing with right now when everyone was going full fuel run towards the end of the race. I saw one car slowed through 3 and 4, I think. Johnny Garetta slowed down the front straightaway. I think maybe just letting faster traffic through. I think he actually may have gotten loose off of turn 4 as well. I actually heard a car rumble over the curb, so I thought someone had made a big mistake. We might see a caution coming out, but everything gets calmed down similarly. But Jamie was on pace with these drivers earlier on in this motor race, which is what still leads me to believe that he's still out there saving fuel.
And he's now sat in the draft to Joni Kynan ahead of him. Okay, Kynan is slightly pulling ahead just a little bit on each lap. He's sitting 27.1s compared to Kynan's 26.8s. And actually, Kynan 0.3 of a second that lap, hunting down Robert Grosser. So Robert Grosser all of a sudden needs to be scared and needs to start watching his mirrors as to whether Joni Kynan is going to catch him and start challenging him for a position.
And I'm also curious about the top speed here for Jamie Wilson. Is I want to keep an eye. What sort of speed does Joni Kynan do here at the end of the straight? He's going to get up to about 175 miles an hour before the turn-in point. We're going to clock Jamie Wilson here this next lap going in towards turn 1. We'll bring the graphic up when he peels off of turn number 4 and goes down the front straightaway. straightaway, but 175 the speed for Joni Kajanen. And if Jamie's saving fuel, and especially if he's playing with those fuel map settings, you're going to see that top speed lower. So we'll pull the graphic up. Let's see what he gets to. 171, 172, 173. Going to get to 173, 174. So slightly slower down the front straightaway is Jamie Wilson. That could be an indicator, but that said, Joni Kajanen is working the draft. I was expecting that distance to be a little bit larger, just seeing the way that Jamie has lost pace here to this 77. But Joni Kajanen absolutely flying at the moment.
We have 15 laps remaining at the stripe for Jamie Wilson to complete to finish out this race. If this goes green to the end, we will be done in the next 7.5 minutes. The question is does Jamie Wilson have 7.5 minutes of fuel left in his tank? He doesn't even need to have... At this point, he could splutter across the line and still win, because he's got 8 seconds over Mike Gerlicher, who I am pretty sure will need to pit again because he has not been fuel saving. He has got 18 seconds over Matt Cook in third. So Jamie Wilson, unless he pits, he is in a really good position to win this race. If he splutters into turn 3, I think he may just about get it.
That's the other big question, is if he... It's not just can he get to the start finish on power, is can he maybe Alexander Rossi something out of this? Because I think you have enough speed if the cars start sputtering, and I think he has enough of a gap. You're talking about a 3/4 of a lap lead over Matt Cook. You see right now, Jamie Wilson in the center of 1 and 2, Matt Cook just entering turn 3. If Jamie is able to get to turn 3 before the car starts sputtering out, I think he'll be able to have enough momentum to make it all the way around the racetrack. That said, timing of when that car potentially starts sputtering is also really important. Because let's say he takes that white flag and that car starts misfiring because it's ran itself out of fuel. When that car comes out, if it starts doing that through the center of 1 and 2, it's a disaster, because you're nearly 50 mile an hour or 30 mile an hour off the sort of top speed you typically do around this racetrack. As actually down the back straightaway, Jamie Wilson can't do it. He hits pit road. Let's see if he takes tires. And I think I heard a car in the wall as well.
We are staying green. I can't see any cars stopped out on the circuit. But we're watching Jamie Wilson now. Mike Gerlicher as well deciding to come down onto the pit lane. So Matt Cook will re-inherit the lead in just a lap or so's time. Is Jamie Wilson going to find his pit box? On the left-hand side for the number 87. To a stop, he will come. We're going to be watching this with keen eyes. Does the car go up on the jacks? It doesn't. So Jamie Wilson is going for a fuel-only stop. 5.1 seconds. Out and away he will go. Through goes Matt Cook. Through goes Robert Grosser. Through goes Joni Kajanen. So he's going to rejoin the circuit in 4th, 5th, 7th. So Jamie Wilson goes from 1st to 7th with that pit stop. And he's all of a sudden on the back foot on old tyres. In some ways, Randy, I don't know whether it would have been worse taking new tyres as we head into those final 10 laps.
It's interesting. He was only about 2 seconds out, and let's actually look. Would he have been at risk of losing more spots? Not really. Mike Gerlicher is the only car 11 seconds back off of him, and it's sort of an interesting situation there. I don't think he quite got the pit entry and pit exit he would have wanted, maybe playing it a little bit safe, but now inside of 10 laps to go, we have Matt Cook with the race lead, 8 seconds clear. Fight for second is the one that's close between Robert Grosser and Joni Kajanen, who, remember, was on the same strategy as Jamie Wilson near enough, and he's got himself fighting for third, whereas Jamie finds himself 4 positions back, running in 7th.
And for Jamie, okay, he's 2 positions up and where he started, but from leading the race through strategy with the possibility of potentially getting to the end, all of a sudden that's just gone out of the window, and he's on the back foot. Got to make himself through, or get himself through the pack if he can. However, I saw just a little bit battle for second position. Robert Gross and Joni Kajanen. This is closed up now, Randy, and very soon we're going to have a nice battle for who is going to stand where on the podium.
And a couple people in our top 5, absolutely fabulous races. Joni Kajanen from 19th all the way up to 3rd. plus 16 here today. And Sasha Lamp, first start in this series, I think as a regular, he goes from 22nd up to 5th. So 2 of them in the top 5. Robert Grosser seems to have the pace advantage over the 77 of Kaijin at the moment, but or at least Yoni can't find anywhere to make the move. Lines up the inside off of turn 2, actually able to get a decent run. So that's going to close a little bit of ground to the 3 car ahead of the 77, and he's actually short on fuel. He has to come down pit road.
He's only done 22 laps on the stint.
So he underfilled the car.
And this is important because it means that Robert Grosser not only is comfortably into second position, he's just got to bring it home. This could give Sasha Lamp on his return to the Classic IndyCar Series, if he can close that gap to Timo Sinyemi, his first podium of 2019.
And what would that mean as they're coming towards 5 laps to go right now? Your race leader of Matt Cook, he's already taken it. So the 5 lap to go window here, Sasha Lamp needs to somehow reel in 7/10 of a second and make the pass. I don't think that car has got the pace to do it, but man, what a move that would be if he could get that job done.
4 laps to go as they cross the line this time for Matt Cook. He's going to come across the line to complete lap 196. And all of a sudden you can smell the checkered flag. If we get a caution now, we will finish behind the pace car. And we will see the checkered flag that way. But we will stay green for now. We have been green since before the halfway mark. Lap number 74, if I remember correctly. Which is, I don't think it's one of the longest green flag periods in CIS history, because we almost broke that record at Pocono. But it's definitely one of the longest of the year.
Yeah, definitely is going to be one of the longer green flag runs I think we can expect here at Gateway. Is down the front straightaway. 3 laps remaining for this entire group. For everyone out there on the racetrack, working lap 198 of 200 through 1 and 2. Sasha Lamp has lost ground to Timo Isinyemi the last couple of laps, so the fight for third I think is not going to be on from Sasha Lamp, but we have to focus. This driver right here already taken the 2 laps to go signal, and he's going to scream down the back straightaway off of 2. Matt Cook, in a dominant season, is about to take another dominant win in about 40 seconds time.
No one has been able to touch Matt Cook all race long. Some people tried. In fact, Josh Ginn did, and Josh ended up having to retire from this race. White flag flies, and we have 1 more lap to go here, ladies and gentlemen, at the Gateway Motorsports Park into turn number 1 and 2. Matt Cook will come. He has a 9.5 second advantage over Robert Grosser in at second position. 3 and 4. Not much more has got to worry Matt Cook. He's just got to lift out of the throttle, make sure that the car is nice and steady. 3 who will come, hug the inside line, right up to the outside wall on the exit of turn number 4. The checkered flag, he can now see it across the line. He will come. Matt Cook wins at Gateway, gets the second half of his championship off to the start it needs to go and take that title.
And that's going to nearly put him, I mean, with this win, he's nearly, I think, locking up the championship. I mean, obviously not because, you know, mathematically, because he'd have to not show up, I think, in order for that to be the case. But, I mean, as long as he turns up and runs decent, I don't think there's any way anyone else wins this championship at this point.
And there is also the fact of drop weeks to come into it. So today will be one of Josh's drop weeks, but I believe so far we haven't actually had a non-finish yet from Matt.
I believe he has. That's true.
I believe he has finished every single race.
I want to say you're correct. Regardless, he's owning.
Yes, he is
straight.
Absolutely
change
flying
that car
up in
number
front
to
of the field.
1337.
As everyone just comes down onto pit lane to finish their 200 lap race, Matt Cook is going to celebrate on the front straightaway, and we can take you through your final finishing positions. Matt Cook spent 200 laps absolutely dominating the field, although he may have just had a small incident with a concrete wall while celebrating. He is going to come away from Gateway at Victory Lane and victorious for the 5th time in 2019 and come away with the championship lead. Second position is going to go to the German Robert Grosser, and his teammate is going to be in third, Mr. Timo Isinyemi. Sasha Lamp on his return to the Classic IndyCar Series, coming home a brilliant 4th Jan Hoffman in 5th, Jamie Wilson ending up in 6th, and Andrew Aitken, first of the cars, a lap down in 7th. Mike Gallagher in 8th, Josh Baird 9th, and Logykal going to be running out the top 10. Andre Delino in his first start of 2019 going to be finishing 11th. And then Johnny Garrett, Andrew Adair, Saunders, Marshall Stanley, Jonathan Diggs, Tristan Hauser, Josh Chin, Carson Brobby, Nate Michael, Todd Novosad, and Lucas Veal are your non-finishers. Randy Shoemate and Logan Simmons as your non-starters. We're going to step aside for just a few moments here on RaceSpotTV and on the iRacing Esports Network, and we will be back in just a few moments for all the post-race coverage here at Gateway.
Gotta love this time of year. Only one can be champion. Let's go playoff racing. I said, hey, there's no surrender. Let 'em hear my battle
Once again, photo finish here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Will it be Tim Hogan? It's going to be Christopher DeMerrick at the line.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Gateway Motorsports Park and RaceSpotTV's coverage of the Classic Indycar Series for 2019. There's been one man at the front of the field all day today, Randy, Mr. Matt Cook, bringing a very dominant win home. At the moment, he hasn't quite got down to victory lane to have a chat to us, but in the meantime, we can have a catch-up with who finished second. We are going to catch up with Mr. Robert Grosser. Robert, first of all, congratulations. Second place, a brilliant try from you today. At the end, it looked as though Jan Hoffman was going to try and put a move on you, but obviously a little bit of fuel issues obviously running into him.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jack. I'm super exhausted after this race. Not much yellows to get some relaxing time, but I won't complain about that. Yeah, it was quite exciting. There was some pressure from Jan. Joni in the end, I was really concerned about keeping him behind, but he also ran into fuel issues there, maybe a miscalculation. I really feel pity for him because he's driving an excellent season so far. And overall, it wasn't really boring, that I can really tell you.
Well, obviously, a race that really was about fuel. Was there... How was your calculations done? Were you just sort of going, right, this is the marks that I have to hit for the fuel, so you knew that when that mark came, you could just then go and pit?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, big shout out to Joel Real Timing, which does all the fuel calculations for me. And but in the end, I was also doing some undercuts, which worked quite nicely, I would say. So I wasn't, for the final 2 pit stops or 3, no, final 2 pit stops, I wasn't empty. I was, I just wanted to have some quick laps on fresh tires before, while the other ones were struggling on the old tires. And yeah, I gained some positions. It definitely contributed to the P2 finish.
Well, obviously looking forward back to the road courses with Road America next time out in 2 weeks' time. Is that somewhere where you're looking forward to, a circuit where you're thinking you could be strong?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, whether I'm strong, I don't know really yet. But Road America, I love this track. It has such a nice flow. It is one of my favorite tracks on the whole schedule. And of course, we will have this nice strategy gamble there, 2-stopper versus 3-stopper, that I can already tell you. 2-stopper needs a little bit of fuel saving. So that will be quite exciting. Anything can happen. I'm really looking forward to an excellent race there.
Well, obviously, Robert, before we go and let you celebrate your race with your team, who would you like to give a shout out to today?
Big shout out, especially to Timo and Lucas, and of course also to the other Vortex drivers today. We really practiced a lot. Our sponsor Logykal, and of course you, Jack, Randy, RaceSpotTV, for another excellent broadcast. I'm really looking forward to see it later this evening. And yeah, to all the drivers, again, a super clean race on the ovals. Ovals really going strong this season. I'm very happy to see this, actually. Nice development there by all the drivers.
Well, thank you very much for coming to join us, Robert. We will see you in 2 weeks' time at Road America.
Thank you.
Well, Randy, I believe you have been able to catch up with our winner, Mr. Matt Cook.
Indeed, I have. Race winner today, driver easily of the field, easily the class of the field. Matt, what a run from you. And I've just got to be honest, you seemingly had one interesting moment the entire race, and it happened with Josh Chin through corners number 1 and 2. Josh, a handful of laps earlier, made a move on you, and the only time you didn't lead this race was when that 93 car was out ahead of you for about 10 laps or so before you guys had your incident in turn 2. What was your perspective on that one?
Yeah, I mean, like, more or less, it was. It's honestly a tough one. I've looked at it, took a few minutes there, and you know, part of me feels that I overdrove the corner. The other part feels that maybe Josh just came down a little bit too much there. You know, there's not much room between us for me to react. So I mean, like, it could just be a racing deal. At the same time, I will always take responsibility for my actions, so I overdrove the corner.
And, I mean, talking about the championship points, obviously drop weeks are still in effect, or just having a peek of the points coming into this race. I mean, you came into this race with an 80-point lead, near enough, 78-point lead over Josh, and you come away with a race win here, and most of your championship rivals have bad races. Josh Chin comes second in the points, 80 points out. He, you know, gets in that incident with you, finishes 17th. Lucas Seville, he comes into the race nearly 130 points back. He finishes dead last car who started the race. He'll be the last one who finished here today. And the driver that finished up near you, they're already, you know, you nearly have double the points of Robert Grosser, who finished second here today, as well as, you know, other drivers you're contending with. Do you think this, for the most part, realistically already wraps up the championship for you? I mean, obviously you have to turn up and at least not wreck every single race, but I feel like this puts you in such a commanding position for the championship that you can basically afford to run top 5 till the final race at Indianapolis and likely have the whole thing locked up.
It could happen that way, but you know, we are going to some tracks that I'm not particularly great at. You know, I could probably get through Road America, but Mid-Ohio is definitely not a track that I am amazing at. So there's definitely an opportunity there. And you know, Homestead and everything, they're open to anyone. Anyone can really step up here. We could have some new winners that we just haven't seen yet.
Well, Matt, you definitely have a stranglehold on the championship regardless, even if you have some tracks that you're maybe not as fond of or maybe not as strong at coming up on the schedule. But either way, we're going to let you go. And before we do so, who gets it done for everyone involved with that AeroX organization?
Just Randy and Andrew do a great job every week, so thank you to them for doing that. And a special thanks to Martin Miller for the support this week.
So he was Matt Cook from Team AeroX. Absolutely dominant drive once again here at Gateway, and just easily keeps running over everyone with this championship here, Jack.
I would agree that he has done exactly that, and it has been a brilliant championship so far. But for myself and Randy, that is about all we have. It's about all we have time for today. And of course, all of this would not be possible without our brilliant sponsors that we have here at the Classic IndyCar Series. And of course, the first of those is Logykal Innovative Engineering, providing us with the title sponsorship once again for 2019. And from the other partners, Edivice Incorporated, the Carol Hatton Breast Cancer Care Trust, and of course from our, I'm trying to remember who they are now, and everyone else who supports the Classic IndyCar Series. And also for us at RaceSpotTV, Esteban Ballard for our track cameras, and ATVO provided to us by appengineering.com. And of course, live timing and scoring as always brought to you by Nick Thiston. I have been Jack Stiles, and Randy Chenworth has been alongside me all race long. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time at Road America. Good night.